Welcome back to the 2017 Hearthstone Collegiate Championship. The people have spoken, and they've gotten what they want. It's more Brian Kibler back on the desk, and I'm Robert Wing, joining him for the final quarterfinal of today. Whoever wins this will be advancing to take on UT San Antonio tomorrow in the semifinals. I'm excited. I'm glad we get to cast this last match of the day.
Yeah, and definitely excited to see this. I think this is one of the more anticipated matchups of the event so far. Rutgers has probably the sort of highlight player of the tournament. We see Noblord, who was actually one of the competitors in the North America Last Call tournament last year from accumulating so many points on the Hearthstone Championship Tour. So UC Riverside, though, they have a very strong lineup as well. Ricky, So Legit, and Vince. So Legit is kind of the captain of that team in terms of guiding the gameplay. Noblord, of course, the sort of figurehead of his team as well, along with Orpheus and Ludicolo.
Yeah, I'm going to really quickly break down the format again in case you're just tuning in. Now, again, this is the official format of the Hearthstone Collegiate Championship. I've kind of taken to calling it the game, set, match format, although I think we've yet to come up with an official name for it. But basic principles, as you see on the screen, there are 3 sets of players. Each player needs to win 2 games within their respective set to earn a point that goes towards the match. Upon winning 2 sets, you win the match for your team, and then you advance to the semifinals. So, yeah, a lot of interesting ways you can approach this brand new format.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of innovation in terms of the decks that teams have chosen to bring.
Yeah.
One interesting thing, because every team has to play every class once, and they only play a single game with that class. So you're no more likely to play against, say, Warrior than you are against Warlock. So you need to have your decks have balanced matchups, or perhaps you're targeting a broad swath of the field instead of what would, in a normal tournament or on ladder, be the most popular decks.
Yeah, and when it comes to actually building out the rosters for these lineups, the teams have had kind of different approaches, but most of them seem to fall somewhere in the realm of we let people play what they're most comfortable on, because again, it's not necessarily the end of the world, as this is done almost entirely by committee. The first game now of each set will, or the first game we see on broadcast rather, will be played in Group 1, or Set 1, at the same time as the first game in Set 3. So that's the only weird wrinkle to this, as basically 2 games are going on at once. For the rest of the games, players will be able to play at the same time and, kind of coach each other and help each other.
Yeah, and we are getting ready to have the players take their seats now. It is UC Riverside walking in. They actually have a huge fan base in the audience. These guys are from a relatively local school. They were able to drive here. Actually, you may have caught a glimpse of the guy in full armor in the audience. I had a chance to meet him earlier. You see the team on the screen there. So Legit, studying business economics. Ricky, who's undeclared, and Vince, studying mathematics.
Yeah, we had a chance to talk to these guys, and the most interesting thing that stands out is they actually had tryouts to see who would get on this team. So, for a lot of teams, it's kind of, hey, come together, randomly sit at a dinner table together, or meet up on a Facebook page or a TESPA chapter. These guys actually had tryouts, so certainly very impressive. And we see here, this is the Rutgers team, as we mentioned, Noblord on this team, and I think that's really the standout story of this particular matchup. Does having a player of that caliber, of that pro level, bring you an advantage? He is joined by Orpheus and Ludicolo, and we are looking at electrical engineering, human resource management, and chemistry. Brian, which of these majors is not like the other?
I would say the human resource management is the sort of the standout we haven't seen too much of before. I always like the sort of jokes around the major metagame here, but one thing that is interesting that we've seen sort of consistently from these teams, we've generally seen the player who the teams have kind of had as their consensus leader sitting in the middle. And I think a big part of that is how we've seen, we were talking about this kind of wrinkle of game 1 of the first set and the third set are played simultaneously, which allows the kind of team captain or the strongest player to be able to give input on both of those games that are going on at once.
Yeah, it's important to kind of have somebody who is, the peer review guy, making sure everything goes. But we see for Set 1, it is going to be Warrior, Shaman, and Warlock for Ricky. Orpheus, meanwhile, going to be piloting Druid, Hunter, and Priest. So pretty diverse. Obviously, no shared classes going on here. And again, as a reminder, you have to bring all 9 classes to this event, so it's 9 different decks. It is more akin to the Hearthstone Global Games format than the traditional Hearthstone Championship Tour, Conquest, or Last Hero Standing formats.
I've kind of looked at these and just considered them World of Warcraft Arena 3v3 lineups, and it's like, ooh, who would win? It's like, well, Priest, Warlock, Hunter used to be a pretty good 3s team back when you had like Viper Sting and Mana Burn, but I'm kind of dating myself here, I think. But anyway.
Yeah. No, trust me, you're fine. I actually sit right next to the World of Warcraft esports team in the Blizzard esports office, so they tell me all the time, and I think Paladin's good, which neither team has. So I guess we're not going to do an arena match here. But yeah, so one thing that I find really interesting about Rutgers that I want to point out now is their process for decision making on a play-by-play basis is essentially Noblord will basically submit the play verbally to the teams, and then if there's no dispute on it, they will go forward with it. But again, how does that work in the very first game where you have two games going on at once? Is Noblord basically looking and he's like, okay, we decided this, and then we decided this.
Well, amusingly, when we sat down with the teams last night to kind of get to know them a little bit better, Noblord wasn't there. He actually had not yet arrived on his flight because he had a test that he couldn't miss, so he got in late last night. And the teammates were talking about him. They're like, oh, well, 1 week, Matt overslept because he was playing ladder so late. Another time, Matt misclicked, and we're like, man, what's with this Matt guy? And then we're talking about it a little bit more. They're like, oh yeah, he played the last call last year. Like, wait, what? Like, who is he? Oh, he's Noblord. Oh, okay. Now I understand why you're not mad at Matt for misclicking his Kazakus potion instead of Hellfire, whatever it was.
Yeah, you'll kind of give some leeway to that guy when he's also, somebody who had enough points to make it to the Americas last call. I think you'll give him a little bit more forgiveness if he's, late or accidentally clicks Hellfire instead of the correct spell. So interesting to see. Meanwhile, on the other side of UC Riverside, Rutgers is coming in here very confident. Obviously, why wouldn't you be? You have Noblord on the team. UC Riverside, actually, they're happy they're here. They're glad to be here. They want to compete. But they jokingly said that they basically high-rolled their way here, and they were hoping to high-roll their way 3 more times. So they were a very jovial bunch. Hard-working, though. They said they've been working to scout the other teams. And I think it's cool they come in here with a little bit of levity. They're not necessarily saying, like, oh, it's win or start crying on stage. We're just going to high-roll.
Yeah. A kind of funny story about UC Riverside. Yesterday during the rehearsal day, I was actually just hanging out in the green room playing Hearthstone, and someone opens the door to the green room, like, are you playing right now? And I was like, yeah, I am. Like, oh, you're playing against someone out here, and it was Orpheus. we were playing. He was playing Pirate Warrior, and I was playing Hunter, and double Galaka crawlered him. So
yeah,
I got as soon as I found out that it was like, oh, what are the players? I just started spamming emotes at him, and it was very satisfying.
Yeah, fun fact: Orpheus is actually not allowed to BM. His team won't allow it, but you BM'd him, Brian. That just seems unfair.
It's cosmic justice, really, if that's what is deep within his soul.
Yeah, if you're someone who BMs on the ladder, just know Brian Kibler will find you. He will double Galaka crawler you and just proceed to BM you mercilessly.
That's the sound of a Galaka crawler eating a pirate.
We're a role playing desk. We're really between cute
absolutely.
cat and crawler noises. We're a role playing desk.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, looking at these lineups, we saw again they're each bringing 3 different classes. Want to point out again, the meta is completely different right now than it was, say, a month and a half ago when we were at the kind of end of the Year of the Kraken. Year of the Mammoth brings a whole bunch of awesome surprises. Speaking of surprises, though, Brian mentioned it. This guy is actually wandering around in the Santa Ana Esports Arena dressed as a knight. He's so awesome. I got a chance to talk to him. He said he owns that suit of armor, and because he was coming out to cheer for his team, he did, in fact, put on the tabard.
Yeah, you couldn't see it in that shot, but his tabard is like a school flag for UC Riverside. It's a very, very cool outfit he's got here to support his school. And it is time to get into game number 1. We have Warlock, looks like a Zoo-style deck, against what looks like Jade Druid with a Yogg-Saron from Rutgers.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of this actually circulating around in the Hearthstone Global Games. People are bringing that Jade Druid, and they're throwing in Yogg-Saron these days because you've kind of lost some tools overall with set rotation, Hall of Fame, etc. But Yogg-Saron's still around, and you have so many spells, and some generate other spells. Obviously you can go pretty much infinite with, I believe it's Jade Charm. What am I thinking of?
Jade Idol.
Jade Idol. So
well, you don't even know the name of the
I don't
Jade
play
Idol.
Jade.
Come on, man.
Yeah, Jade Idol. So you play so many spells that Yogg-Saron is just going to get so much value when you play him. And, Yogg-Saron is still that card out there that can just single-handedly turn unfavorable matchups your way, especially when you're playing against more mid-range style decks that just crowd the board with kind of beefy minions.
Yeah, Yogg's kind of the panic button for Jade Druid. And Jade Druid is a deck that is notoriously strong against control decks and can sometimes struggle if it falls behind against aggressive decks. But we see the Earthen Scales in the far left of the hand. That was actually a card that when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know if this is a card that will really see play. It really needs to be in a deck that really, really wants to keep itself alive against aggressive decks. Well, it turns out Jade Druid, if it is able to stay alive, is very, very powerful. Plus, it's a 1-cost spell that pairs very well with Gadgetzan Auctioneer.
Yeah, it's very powerful, already making a mark in these styles of decks. And Druid's kind of in a weird spot after the meta where I think people are still trying to gauge what exactly is the optimal way to play it. Obviously, there are specific archetypes target different types of decks. Aggro Druid with the ability to go wide, put out buffs early. does a number on slower control decks. This is, as you pointed out, more designed to deal with control and some of the more mid-range archetypes.
Yeah, and here, Rutgers in a little bit of an awkward spot, don't have access to either Wild Growth or Innervate. In particular, against aggressive decks, it's very important for the Jade Druid to be able to ramp out its mana and start getting powerful minions like that Jade Behemoth online. They have a lot of ways to keep themselves alive if they are able to get a foothold on the board with the Earthen Scales and the Feral Rage, but unfortunately need a little bit of help actually getting to that stage.
Yeah, electing to just go ahead and Wrath out the Voidwalker there. Again, that's the full 3 damage Wrath, not cycling a card, so I have to be honest, I feel like Rutgers is under a little bit of a microscope here because with a lot of the collegiate teams all throughout the Testbook Collegiate Series, we could always fall back to, okay, well, these guys are not looking to make a career out of this. They're not necessarily taking it that seriously. Whereas with Rutgers, because they have Noblord, you really have to kind of hold their decision-making to a higher level because, again, you have someone who made it to the Last Call tournament based on sheer number of Hearthstone Championship Tour points.
I mean, even just looking at the player cam there, we see Noblord sort of going back and forth between the two games, clearly giving his input on the situation in each of them.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's he seems to be in good spirits. This is low pressure for him, I would imagine. And talking to the Rutgers guys yesterday, they actually told us that one of their big motivations for being involved in all this is to help Noblord get that big championship tournament win. They're friends of his. They say he's a great player. He deserves the win, and they want to help him get it, which I think is a really amazing story.
Yeah, they were actually saying they were really excited for Noblord in particular getting to this stage because they feel like he really deserves a kind of breakout performance in terms of tournament success.
Yeah, well, this is one matchup where they can certainly do it, but they are going to have to start finding, as you said, Innervate is certainly a tool that is going to help them, because otherwise they're going to fall behind. And Zoo, in realistically the last 2 metas, has not been as powerful as it was back in the day, but has always managed to find a home against Druid. That's really an area where it does really well.
Yeah, I was going to say that this matchup historically of aggressive Warlock decks against kind of ramp-style Druid decks has generally gone very much in the favor of the Warlock deck because it is able to get that pressure on. One key thing is that Power Overwhelming has been moved to Wild. So that's one of the real power cards from the Warlock deck to punch through big taunt minions. However, the fact that there's no Power Overwhelming isn't really all that important if your opponent isn't ever able to stick a minion on the board. And right now, Rutgers is struggling with just that.
Yeah, it's also worth noting, speaking of tools that have been lost, Druid no longer has Azure Drake. That obviously went to Hall of Fame, and later on in the game, once you had that mana acceleration, the ability to pull out an Azure Drake and then go for a big 5 damage swipe that's doing 2 damage to the other minions was a way you could crack open the board. And really, once you get Zoo off the board as the Druid, you're pretty much only really worried about that Doom Guard, which is very awkward to try to remove.
And speaking of things that are awkward to remove, the Adjective Pterodax.
Adjective Pterodax, yeah.
The Ravenous Pterodax, as I've learned. That can be a very difficult minion for Zoo to remove, or rather for Druid to remove. It can get really big in terms of health, and also just, absolutely devastating if it picks up Wind Fury, for instance. Yeah,
we watched Shawnee State just absolutely 360 windmill slam UC Berkeley with the Pterodax earlier that got untargetable against the Mage deck, and the Mage is like, well, what do I do?
Well, there is Divine Shield, Wind Fury, plus 3 attack, all pretty attractive options. I have to imagine that Divine Shield is the first choice. They want to ensure that it won't just get swiped away. And now can't be targeted. Okay, well,
I saw this. I remember this, Brian. This movie was bad.
Deja vu right here. And Wild Growth, great card, bad timing for Rutgers here. Pick up one of the best cards in their deck if they draw it early on, but now they're getting to the stage of the game. They need to be using their mana to contest the board.
Yeah, you hate to see this situation if you're a Rutgers fan.
As the meme goes.
Yep. Yeah, but Wild Growth right now, it's not accomplishing much of anything. Fandral on the board, as bad as it looks, may just have to be the call because at least you're putting something on the board. But let's consider if you Wild Growth now, your next turn you're going to be on 7 mana. You have the Jade Behemoth, you have the Auctioneer, you have Earthen Scale, so there are things you can pair together. But yeah, this is, no matter what you do here, this is kind of suboptimal plays.
Yeah, and this is really a pretty mediocre turn from Rutgers when they need something good. And we see the Pterodax goes unscathed, not even the Divine Shield being broken, which means that even a swipe won't be enough to take it off by itself next turn. Juggler going to get some good work in with a clear board from Rutgers.
Yeah, now talking earlier when we saw Shawnee State just pulverize the Mage with the adjective Pterodax, I do want to point out that was against Mage, and the Mage didn't really have the ability to put out big taunts, which is something the Jade Druid can do. As we pointed out earlier, Jade Behemoth is in the deck, so that's maybe the silver lining, but I think things are just moving a bit too fast at this point for Rutgers to really do much about it.
Yeah, Rutgers does have the Behemoth plus Urson scales here, which can make a 4/7 taunt, which gives them 4 life, which, puts them up to 17, but there's already so much attack on this side, and 4 of that has Divine Shield attached to it. So they can attack in just the Pterodax and the Darkshire Librarian, end up clearing off the taunt and drawing a card for their trouble while pushing additional 6 damage.
Yeah, not only does the Pterodax have Divine Shield, it has Untargetable. So realistically, if the Zoo players choose to use the smaller minions basically as blockers for the Pterodax, what actually stops it?
Even if they pick up a swipe, can't target it.
Yep. All right, Defender of Argus coming up off the top, and that is a pretty decent draw there.
Yeah, that is pretty scary. Going to potentially allow the Pterodax, if they want to put it on the Pterodax, to punch through for 5 damage with that Divine Shield. Could even push. It looks like. I mean, there's even the possibility of some juggles hitting and making things awkward. But yeah, this is just really snowballing in the favor of UC Riverside already, and particularly just looking at the hand for Rutgers too. Yeah, Auctioneer, powerful card. Jade Spirit, powerful card, but not the kind of cards that they need to get back into a game where they're this far behind. Yeah,
realistically, they probably need to be looking at certain combos of cards to really get things done. So none of those cards really stand alone as being super impressive. Now, choosing to put Defender of Argus on those targets, is that how you would have approached the situation, Brian?
I mean, there's a lot of options. This does allow them to trade in some of their smaller minions, not run the risk of getting their Pterodax cracked by getting attacked. So they're able to protect their Pterodax here, and even getting a value trade from this. The attack with the Firefly there, I was briefly thinking the Defender could attack, but obviously couldn't. Yeah, they're able to get the value trade and even, leave Rutgers with nothing in play and just 10 life. Going to be very tough to come back here.
Now, I like this. They just rip the Nourish. That's one of those things to me that just sticks out as the advantage of having Nobblers. Like, look, we're not going to dwell on this turn. Like, hit the Nourish, see if we get anything. If not, let's just go to the next game.
And I think that's exactly what's going to be happening here. There is 10 damage on the board across from them. They can Hero Power, put themselves, 1 damage off lethal, but that's not going to be enough to take care of anything that Riverside can throw at them next turn.
Yeah, and as we can see, with Caster Vision here, the Soulfire is in the hand for UC Riverside, so that's going to just ice out the game no matter what Rutgers chooses to do. But, they are considering their options at this point. And
I mean, we can actually look at the player cams and realize they are looking at the other game. They're actually focusing. They're like, okay, this one's over. They actually just don't even bother to do anything here. Spending their time focused on, apparently something very exciting happened in the other game, though. They seem to be either very happy or very sad about the results of that, but not too happy about this game as it goes 1-0 in this set over to Riverside.
Yeah, it's at least nice to see Rutgers, at least being able to laugh about it and kind of meme a little bit, because that's one of those matches where realistically they never really got what they needed as a Druid to get going. And we talked about the fact that Warlock right now in a vacuum isn't the most powerful class in the meta, but that's a matchup where it just goes fast. It plays minions that have more than 1 health. So even if Swipe had come out, there were points where that board would have been very awkward to deal with.
We've actually seen Warlock have incredible success so far here over the course of the event. I'll take a look at how things are going in this match so far. We can see the result of the other match. And yeah, Rutgers fell in both sets so far. So they are down 1-0 in set 1 and set 3. So a big hill to climb coming back.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens in set 2, game number 1, which is going to be our next matchup. So Legit versus Noblord. Now, again, we don't necessarily want to trump up that this is, the 2 best players going at each other, because at this point it's 2 teams going at each other. But the pilots are safely the 2 captains in terms of overall ability in Hearthstone.
Yeah, these guys are pretty much the core of their teams, according to the teams themselves, really. And they are the ones with the final say in these games, at least. These all are games played by committee. The teams are collaborating and determining their plays as a group, though the player who is piloting the deck ultimately is the one who is clicking everything, so they do have the final say.
Yeah, and as a reminder, in order to actually win this and advance to the semifinals tomorrow, you have to take victory in 2 sets. And in order to take victory in a set, you have to win 2 games within it. So as we see, Ricky from UC Riverside has 1 win in a game, would need to get 1 more, and then he would claim that set. So 2 sets ultimately wins you the match and the chance to go on to tomorrow.
Yeah, if you think about it, it is a best of 3 of best of 3s. You need to win 2 games out of 3 in each of the 2 out of 3 sets. We're going to be jumping around a little bit between the sets that we're looking at, so everyone gets their chance to be the pilot behind the deck. But again, it is always a collaborative effort. There will no more simultaneous games going on after this first game.
Yeah, we've got all the action for you. You don't have to worry about missing another game. So it's like kind of like a pay-per-view thing. Like we're giving you access to everything.
Except it's free.
Except it's
kind of
free.
like pay-per-view, except it's free. So it's just better.
It's actually just strictly a better.
Yeah.
It's power creep, really.
Power creep of pay-per-view right here. Free stuff.
Yeah, and you get us. Is that better than pay-per-view?
Yeah.
All right, well, UC Riverside currently in a very dominant position, jumping out to being up 2 games. Now, yes, that's across 2 different sets, so we don't necessarily want to say that's as dramatic as a lead as, would say in other formats. But still, coming out and getting wins against Rutgers, who has, as we've talked about, Nowboard on the team, has to feel really well.
Yeah, absolutely. This definitely has to be a excellent feeling for Riverside. Rutgers has to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, in this Final 8, and they're off to a pretty solid lead so far.
All right, let's take a look at what we're going to see in set number 2. Game 1, it is going to be So Legit with Paladin, Mage, Druid, Noblord with Warrior, Warlock, and Mage. And, as we've been talking about kind of a running narrative over the course of the week, the rising stock of Paladin. Very interested to see how So Legit has built his, when we were talking to these teams in specific, more so than others, perhaps, they admitted freely that when they want decks, they're mostly going to the usual watering holes to find them, Reddit, social media, websites. So curious to see if they've taken the approach of maybe building it differently or if they're just going to go with what's a bit more standard. And I'm pretty sure we just have our answers right here as the Paladin deck goes.
Yeah, this Paladin deck with the Spike Ridge Steed, Rockbull Hunter, this version of mid-range Paladin that includes the Murloc package for the early game has been very powerful, very popular on the ladder, and it for very good reason. It has not only powerful late game with Tyrion and Sunkeeper Tarim, the Spike Ridge Steed that we see in the hand right now, but also the ability to curve out very powerfully in the early game with Murlocs. It's kind of like mid-range Shaman used to be with Totem Golem or rather Tunnel Trog into Totem Golem. You have, yes, a very powerful long game deck, but you can also just overwhelm your opponent with early aggression as well.
Yeah, Spike Ridge Steed, we were talking about it earlier. It's a card you and I both kind of slept on, and we didn't necessarily think would be that impactful, but absolutely nuts card. I mean, it's something that once it gets on the board, it's so sticky. If you're running smaller, more aggressive decks, you have to run so many resources into them. On the other side here, we see Rutgers with the Flame Strike, which would lead me to believe this is that Medivh control mage that Cy Gunther has been piloting, but it might just be that their Freeze Mage runs a Flame Strike or something to that effect.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of variation actually amongst both these classes in terms of the kind of decks that people have brought. We've seen both the sort of full-on Freeze Mage with Frost Nova Doomsayer Blizzard. We've also seen the more sort of mid-range control Burn Mage, as you mentioned, the sort of Cy Gunther version that features a overall more controlling aspect than combo game plan.
Yeah, the Arcanologist just coming down. Such a solid play turn 2 in just about every mage build right now. It allows you so much flexibility in running secrets because you know that you can position yourself to always be drawing them, which makes the likelihood of your win condition a lot higher. So Arcanologist, absolutely solid, and with that stat line, battles really well on the board early on.
Yeah, one of the things that sort of typical Freeze Mage style decks often suffered with was they were entirely passive. They weren't really proactive in most stages of the game because they relied on cards like the Frost of a Doomsayer.
Yeah, that is an issue that they have traditionally suffered. Thankfully, Arcanologist is in there, and with the other sort of minions you're seeing early on, they do have the ability to actually kind of trade blow for blow. They have an opportunity now to just play down that Acolyte of Pain. They see a 1/1 on the board, but unfortunately they do know that their minion can coin into the True Silver Champion, so that it may be a consideration as far as not playing that. And we actually see them choose to just go with the Arcanologist.
Yeah, this allows them to get some both early damage in, which can be very relevant in terms of the overall sort of burn game plan. It also allows them to contest the opposing board with minions rather than spells, which is just very advantageous in terms of allowing you to flexibly use your mana in future turns.
Yeah, very curious to see what this Paladin deck actually tops out at, because if this is a true Freeze Mage right here, which it kind of looks like, from what we can see, it certainly shares many similarities with. It's just a Tecton Flame Strike, perhaps. The Paladin, if they're running Forbidden Healing, if they're running Lay on Hands, as the Freeze Mage, you only have so much damage, and it's actually a fair bit, especially if you're running double Pyroblast, but you have to make a conscious decision when you feel it's time to go and how much you can play around the healing.
Yeah, we've seen kind of a shift in terms of the relative value of healing effects against Freeze Mage.
Yeah, it's depending on how much heal is actually in the Paladin deck, you're forced to, if you get an Alexstrasza early, do you just Alexstrasza them on 9? How much burn do you have in the hand? It makes cycle really important early on in the game because you have to dig really quickly to try to find that burn.
Yeah, in particular, the loss of Ice Lance to Wild made it so that there wasn't really the ability to just one-turn burst kill your opponent. That plus Forgotten Torch and Emperor Thaurissan. So now you pretty much always have to kill your opponent over several turns. Alexstrasza can make that effectively one turn if you're Fireball, Frostbolting them, but if they heal at all, that gets you out of range of that. So cards like even just Ivory Knight, which we see in UC Riverside's hand, can really put a major damper on their ability to close out over turns. To say nothing of Ragnaros, Light Lord, or Forbidden Healing.
Yeah, as much as the original Ragnaros was a huge problem for Freeze Mage for other reasons, Ragnaros and Light Lord, obviously same stats. What it does, a little bit different, but it is very difficult for the Freeze Mage to actually remove it. So not only is it healing the opponent, it's also requiring burn resources because you can't just leave it up.
Yeah, I mean, Ragnaros is the sort of elemental Lord of Fire, so it's only appropriate that all of his incarnations are good against a deck that wants to freeze you.
I never thought about that, Brian, but this
is a role-playing desk, Rob. It's a role-playing desk.
This is the high-level analysis I expect from you. Yeah, True Silver Champion equipped out, and we see Mediz Valet into the hand of Rutgers. This is a card that when it first came out via One Night in Karazhan, didn't really accomplish all too much because the Seeker package wasn't necessarily as powerful as it is now thanks to Arcanologist. But Mediz Valet has been making some waves here in the Journey to Un'Goro meta.
Yeah, well, Mediz Valet was actually a card that I think was overhyped at the time. It was actually a card that was on my sort of top 5 cards from One Night in Karazhan list. But yeah, there wasn't really a shell that could take advantage of it nearly as well as these decks can now, in large part, as you mentioned, thanks to Arcanologist. You are so likely to have a secret in play because you have those ice blocks and the Arcanologist in your deck. So Mediz Valet is very likely just going to be a 2/3 with a 3 damage burst attached. And that's enormous value.
Yeah, I want to point out, looking at Rutgers' hand right now, unfortunately, they don't actually have the ability to cycle. The Acolyte is pretty much all they have in terms of ability to dig deeper into the deck. They need to start seeing, Arcane Intellect. They need to find Primordial Glyph to either give them more ability to dig into the deck, more burn, because there is a point where the Paladin is going to start doing things, and if it's, too much healing, then how do you actually win this match?
Well, it depends on exactly how the deck is built for Rutgers here. For instance, if they're able to assemble discounted spells plus Antonidas, you can assemble just a ton of burn. Maybe you're not necessarily bursting your opponent out in quite the same way, but you are able to just exhaust their resources. That can be very difficult, in particular against Ragnaros, because Ragnaros not only heals you, but also presents this significant threat that you have to deal with. And that card, actually, that UC Riverside just drew, the Hydrologist, that can be very crucial just for eye for an eye in terms of the Freeze Mage trying to set up this kill protected by Ice Block, but you damaged me, you did one, okay, you're dead now.
Yeah, 2017 is just a crazy year in terms of cards that have largely been put on like the island of broken toys, just coming back in a big way. And Eye for an Eye is surprisingly relevant with the prevalence of Freeze Mages, or even Time Warp Mages that are based around Giants or Fireballs. If you set the Mage to 1, obviously Ice Block doesn't activate on your turn, so you just basically make them pretty much Sudoku themselves with their own Fireball.
Yeah, and it also happens to be a Murloc gets eaten by Hungry Crab, and you see Hungry Crabs all the place too.
Yeah.
So.
Hungry Crabs, Stone Tusk Spores, Wisps. Honestly, I don't know what's going on anymore.
And also, just from a value perspective, we see Getaway Kodo. That's another potentially powerful option. And this is actually a pretty tough decision for UC Riverside, because Eye for an Eye, if they get to, and that is what they take, if they get to that late game where they are basically fighting through Ice Block, that can be their game-winning card. But it's also possible that they just kind of get all their stuff destroyed, and that Eye for an Eye doesn't really give them enough high impact from it, and they perhaps would rather have, at that stage, get a Kodo. But they do have that Wrathion in their hand that they picked up off the Stonehill Defender, which gives them yet another card draw to dig for more value in their deck.
Yeah, it's just kind of a race to the bottom of the deck, realistically, to find these specific tools you need. And Rutgers' hand right now, as we pointed out, there is Sunburn, there are Secrets, there's Blood Mage Thalanos, a Blizzard, and a Primordial Glyph, but it doesn't really feel like... I think the key tools you want to be hitting on here, you want to start finding Alexstrasza, you want to either get to your Antonidas or your double Pyroblast. Wouldn't be surprised to see them start just going soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. And crucially, they're at 35. And we talked about how powerful Eye for an Eye is at getting through Ice Block, but you have to get to the Ice Block first. You have to actually get your opponent down low in life. And UC Riverside is very far away from doing that.
Yeah, looking at this situation now, the Arcane Intellect does come into hand, and traditionally, in terms of priority order as the Freeze Mage, drawing is basically first priority if you can't just win the game, and it's important to note, you have to actually constantly be keeping track of the damage in hand and keeping a running total. Weaving in hero powers is also very important, so we'll see what they choose to do, but Arcane Intellect just feels like, again, you gotta dig, you gotta find more stuff. Curious how long they choose to hold the Primordial Glyph. Because that actually can just give you really important information in terms of how your game plan can develop. So it's one of those things where, yeah, there may be more advantageous points to use it if you have Antonidas later, but using it now or using it soon can at least tell you, okay, how many turns do I have to chain together enough damage to win?
Yeah, absolutely. And you get to later stages of the game, too, where maybe what you want changes. Maybe what you're looking for is a freeze effect because you just need another turn to stop a big board. Maybe what you want is some sort of card draw, but you don't know that until you got to the right stage. So in many cases, yeah, we actually see them ping rather than cast Primordial Glyph. They just want more information before they make that decision. Yeah,
that is a big deal. Obviously, you need to be able to stay alive long enough to cast all that damage. The pings to the face, I really like. You want to try, if possible, to get them to use the healing before you bring out Alexstrasza, and that can be a good method of doing so, just dutifully spending 2 mana a turn to ping a 1 damage to face. And that said, Primordial Glyph, since you haven't seen any of them cast as UC Riverside, you have a pretty good understanding of what's the most possible damage that can be done on any given turn. You know all the possible sequences and combinations. So, so long as Primordial Glyph isn't cast, UC Riverside knows exactly where they stand.
Yeah, and that said, they still stand pretty far away from being able to win the game. They may not be at actual threat of dying, but they have a lot of fairly low-impact cards in their hand. Consecration, very weak in this matchup. You're playing as a deck that really isn't looking to pressure you with minions. Similarly, the Eye for an Eye, it is great if you get to the stage where it can kill your opponent, but until then, pretty much useless. So here, yeah, they're just investing both Consecrations in getting through that armor as well as taking the Doomsayer off the board, recognizing those cards are going to be weak this entire game. They might as well get the value from them while they can.
Yeah, and in terms of how it interacts with equality, if you have one minion on the board and say Antonidas comes down, say it's just a 1/1 soldier, at that point, you can still cast Equality and get rid of Antonidas that way. So the Consecration, because the targets are so specific, aren't necessarily, you're not going to see a whole big board again that you need to Equality Consecrate from the Mage.
Yeah, the scary thing is the Antonidas plus Frost Nova, which can potentially really, really mess up your ability to deal with it. And they pick up a counterspell from this glyph here that can potentially give them the ability to try to stop, say, a Lay on Hands, Forbidden Healing if they get to a power turn. They need to be careful with it, though, because they still know that coin is in the hand. So the counterspell does run the risk of just running into a 0 mana effect that will trigger it.
Yeah, I really like Rutgers just choosing to hold the counterspell here because of exactly what you said. They have the coin. You expect UC Riverside is probably going to test what that was, knowing that that card came from Primordial Glyph. So if they're going to test, using the coin to just detect if it's counterspell or even mana bind is really important. And you expect them to do it.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised to see the coin be reserved at this point exactly for that. They don't really have any huge tempo plays with that coin anyway. And in fact, if they haven't been paying close attention to the positioning of the cards in Rutgers' hand, they may not be sure whether this is a secret that came from the deck. But the Ivory Knight going to pick up a couple of interesting options. Standing Against Darkness heals them for 5, which is attractive in its own right, and also potentially just gives them a bit of a board that can actually put the pressure on.
Yeah, and it's possible there is a Light Infused Stegodon somewhere in here that is something that has been kind of milling around. It's not necessarily a guaranteed inclusion, but it could be in there. So there is upside, but I think more importantly, they get 5 health. They get the ability to put minions on the board. That can, at least in some respect, be pushing pressure.
Yeah. I would doubt we would see a Stegodon here because they have the Murloc, so they probably have Gentle Megasaur. But the second ice block, or rather ice barrier, triggered for Rutgers, and that is a lot of armor. And like we mentioned before, they're under so little pressure right now. But now their hand is kind of full of things that aren't really great for putting pressure on themselves. They also don't want to give Riverside time to assemble all of the tools that they may need. They'd really love to be able to find one of their big finishers like Antonidas in particular at this point.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. They could play down Thalnos, go Frost. I was going to say Frostbolt, Fireball. That's puts them at 11, though. Yeah. So the ping here with Antonidas, just to help clear up the board, is perfectly fine with me. They're going to leave that Ivory Knight up, and they'll be able to deal with it later if they want to. But if the Thalnos sticks on the board, I do believe they should, over 2 turns, have lethal if no healing comes out with the Frostbolt, Fireball, ping, and then they could also Pyroblast on the following turn.
Yeah, definitely a lot of potential burn available for Rutgers here, but they have to be cognizant of the fact that they are playing as Paladin. Paladin has a lot of healing. We've seen that Ragnaros has been in Riverside's hand for a very long time, and they're just waiting to use it as a big heal when they feel like they're in risk of burn range.
Another upside to the fact that Rutgers just pinged face there as opposed to the Ivory Knight is that if Ragnaros Light Lord comes down, you have a damaged minion on board, so there is just a 50% chance that would heal the Ivory Knight as opposed to face. So more and more I'm liking that play. I think it was necessary potentially to set up lethal as well. I'm trying to think. You would actually have 4, 11. No, it doesn't look like it is necessary, but I definitely do like that.
Yeah, and the Riverside here, they're really hotly debating exactly how they want to navigate this turn, and it will be a Spike Ridge Steed coming up on the Recruit here. Interesting they chose to put it on the Recruit rather than the Ivory Knight.
So we actually see here, aside from Ragnaros, there is no other healing in the hand of UC Riverside. So more burn drawn for Rutgers. I think this is pretty much as good a time as any to just start throwing burn. You have to make them have the answer, and the longer the game goes on, higher the odds are more healing appears in hand.
It's true. It's true. It is kind of a weird spot. There's the 22 life from Riverside, and yeah, it's actually just going to be Fireball, Frostbolt here.
Could fit in the ping as well.
They're going to go ahead and try and maximize the damage here, and I like this a lot because they now put 2 damaged minions on the board. So that means that if Ragnaros comes out, that there's only a 1 in 3 chance that it actually heals UC Riverside's face. But I think we actually may see equality into Ragnaros here from UC Riverside to ensure that they are guaranteed to heal from Ragnaros. Kind of a quirky little play you often end up making in Paladin. Because the quality sets the max health of your minions to 1, you're guaranteed to get the heal in your face. Are they just going for the Ragnaros straight up? Ooh, that could be dangerous.
Especially with that secret that just came out, because if you're keeping track, that came off the Primordial Glyph, so that is risky, but it ends up not being a big issue.
Well, it looks like they're playing the coin here. Were they checking for... Yeah, they were checking for various secrets, because they could have coined first. That would be, if they coined first, they would waste the mana because they're at 10 mana, but it would have triggered Counterspell. That would let them play Equality. Yeah, so they get counterspelled.
So if you put down the Ragnaros first, and it is Mirror Entity, then you can Equality to immediately just deal with the Ragnaros if that's a concern. But again, the healing wouldn't have been basically anything from the Ragnaros on the Mage's side.
Well, they are not going to Equality. They go for the 1-3. We see the prayers coming out from Rutgers here. It will not heal face.
Rewarded.
And the celebration as Pyroblast will end the game.
Yeah, this has been really well navigated by Rutgers. This is in no way, shape, or form a set matchup. The win condition requires you to read the lines and come up with a winning line of play. And they realized they had a lot of burn. They set up Ragnaros to be much less effective, and really love that. And that's some veteran play that I would expect to see from them.
Yeah, and I think that's the sort of navigation of a game that you really see Nibler's influence there. You see, clearly planning several turns ahead in terms of how he's trying to play around the strongest plays his opponent can make. He's like, all right, well, I'm just going to leave your 4-1 in play. A lot of players, they just want to ping off, kill that minion, but recognizes because that is a liability for them as long as their plan is to heal themselves with Ragnaros.
Yeah, so Rutgers is going to get on the board here. We see Noblord getting that victory in set 2. That is a 1 game. I do want to point out, because I think this is important, you pointed out the UC Riverside could have used Equality to guarantee the heal on face, and at that point you survive any amount of damage that you know because you would have seen the 1 spell from the Primordial Glyph. So
yeah,
definitely something for UC Riverside to consider, because leaving yourself at 10 against a Freeze Mage is basically inviting death.
It is a very scary spot, and I have to wonder if the way that they chose to navigate things. I mean, maybe they were thinking they need multiple heals from Ragnaros, and once they played the Ragnaros, maybe they were afraid, I don't want to Equality this, so we're just going to kind of gamble to get the heal to our face. But yeah, if they had opened with the coin and then Equality'd and then played Ragnaros, it would have guaranteed the heal to face, and maybe that game would have gone a lot differently. Yeah,
this may come back to haunt UC Riverside later, but for now we're going to get into set 1, game number 2, as we see Ricky has Warrior and Shaman left. Orpheus has Hunter versus Priest. So this is kind of a battle of, one class that's really up there in that tier 1. I would say that's obviously Warrior. Hunter is right up there in the discussion as well. And then Priest and Shaman, we're still trying to basically figure out exactly where they are.
I'm trying to think have we actually seen a Shaman game on camera?
Yeah. There was a Shaman
one
earlier on. Yep.
Okay.
Elemental
right.
Shaman.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we've only seen 1 though. I think it has either been off camera or just not played in all the matches that we have seen so far. But it will be finally Shaman here against the Priest from Rutgers. And we see this is a Priest deck that actually includes Galaka Crawler, which is a particularly interesting inclusion to me in this format because it is a 9-class, 9-deck format. So how likely are you to play against an opponent who actually has Pirates in their deck?
I would say right now, obviously Pirate Warrior stands out. Miracle Rogue tends to run South Sea Deckhand. Sorry, not South Sea Deckhand. The Pirate.
Some of them even do have Deckhand.
They do have Deckhand, but you're expecting to see Pirates and Rogue. You would even potentially go so far as to see Pirates and Shaman. The Elemental Shaman list, again, the popular one that I've seen lately, when I have run into is the board control list, and that does have Corsair and Patches in it, so there is the opportunity to get those big swing turns, but other than that, I think outside of those 3 classes, no, Druid as well, Aggro Druid, DC, Ducey, Corsair, and Patches in there because of the way that it creates 2 minions and you get the buffs on them.
DC is the Shadow Visions deck. They just loop Shadow Visions over and over.
There we go.
That's what you're thinking about, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, the turn 1 Cleric from Rutgers gives them a little bit of board presence that could potentially give them some value if Riverside gets a unfavorable totem down. Really any totem, frankly, can potentially draw cards off of it, but a healing totem in particular is a awful roll since you give them cards for free. And this hand from UC Riverside, they're choosing not to even use their hero power, choosing to wait and not potentially feed this Cleric here.
Yeah, I want to point out real quick the score you're seeing there on the left. That is actually for set number 1. So UC Riverside is currently up 1 game in this set. They need to win 2 to close it out, and then that will be a 1 set for UC Riverside. Of course, they need to win 2 to win the match and advance to the semifinals.
Yeah, and Rutgers just picked up their first game win in set number 2 that we saw before this. So overall, UC Riverside has a little bit of an edge in the overall match, as well as in this particular set.
Yeah, I want to really quickly point out that one card that I think has been integral in almost every Shaman deck that we've seen popular since Hearthstone was released. That is not in most of these lists is Lightning Bolt, and Lightning Bolt is a way that you can very conveniently deal with the Northshire Cleric. And we saw the Northshire Cleric come down and just pretty much scare the Shaman off the board from making a totem. And we see Thing from Below in there, so not making a totem there is actually incredibly relevant.
Yeah, I'm a little, there is the scare of the Cleric potentially drawing cards, but they didn't have the Thing from Below in their hand, but having that in your deck and choosing not to totem is a pretty huge cost. The Cleric could only draw a card for free off of a healing totem, and any other totem they'd have to spend mana, and frankly their mana is kind of at a priority to try to develop the board and contest what you're doing. So that choice from UC Riverside could very well come back to haunt them.
I was going to say, we're starting to see just little by little in some of these matchups the experience Rutgers has collectively versus UC Riverside, that some of the decision-making, they're very slight things. They're absolutely not huge things, and UC Riverside is otherwise piloting these decks pretty well. But there are these slight decisions that we kind of have to tilt our head at and be like, is this going to be a big factor in the end of the game?
Could that be a big factor, the WoW emote?
Noblord, in my experience, is a pretty saucy guy, so I'm not surprised by that.
Noblord's actually just a super fun guy to watch.
Yeah.
I really enjoy seeing him play because he's really expressive. Lots of players, especially high-level competitive players, are often pretty stone-faced. But he's laughing and really clearly having a good time while he's playing, and that's great to see.
Yeah, I wish we had the old Bahamas Vision player cam zoomed in. The Pavel cam was one of my favorite things ever I've seen in a tournament. So
it was great.
It is awesome when you had the opportunity to watch players that are constantly expressing themselves.
A Cabal Chemist picked up from Rutgers here. Is this a Raza Kazakus deck? There's some interesting inclusions here. A Galaka Crawler, a Cabal Chemist, a Gluttonous Ooze. I think this very well may be a singleton deck here with this really diverse cast of characters we've seen Rutgers play so far.
I just want to remind you at home, if you're getting chills and you're getting scared, Reno isn't wild. He can't hurt any of us. It's just Kazakis and some other fun cards, but Reno's nowhere to be found.
Yeah, he got convicted on his pyramid scheme, his get-rich-quick scheme, and now he will only be punishing players in that format.
I was gonna say the only place he'll be exploring is jail. Well, wild.
Are you saying the same thing? Is Wild Blizzard jail, Rob?
No, that's where we keep Disguised Toast. He's just stuck out there in Wild. No, Wild's, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but some of the other casters have been slowly winning me over to playing Wild. I'm more of a standard guy myself, but Ship's Cannon and Pirate Warrior, by the way,
it's amusing.
It's disgusting. Go out and give it a shot for 2 games, and then go take a shower because you're gross.
I've played against Ship's Cannon gang up patches.
Ooh.
It is really entertaining.
Yeah, but Wild, tons of fun, and that's where Reno is currently living. But yeah, I have to agree. I think this is a one-off deck now that we are seeing from Rutgers. Now, Brian, you're the master of building weird one-off priest decks. What is this?
I like what I see so far. A lot of these cards can be quite strong. I actually, in particular, one card that I've been including a lot more of my decks these days is actually that Gluttonous Ooze. It can be both super impactful against the aggressive decks where you want to remove, say, their Arcanite Reapers or upgraded weapons. Medivh, that's the other thing actually you want to kill in a lot of matchups these days is the Atiesh.
Yeah.
Medivh has become a lot more popular. And I'm actually super excited to see Medivh getting a lot more play because that's one of my favorite cards in the game.
Yeah, Medivh, obviously, when he is brought to the board, summons Atiesh, legendary weapon. If you ever played World of Warcraft, you know how hard it is to actually get Atiesh. But when a spell is cast, that mana cost is then translated into a minion on the board. So if Medivh sticks and you're not dead by the time it's played, because it is a pretty slow card, Atiesh can really help you turn things around, especially in a format where Twisting Nether and Handlock, Reno Locks are not as popular.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is, the Cabal Chemist got to get an eyebrow raise from UC Riverside here, since that is a very unusual card to see in all these decks here.
Yeah, we see Ricky just kind of like, guys, what is...
all right.
Nobody said there'd be one-off priests in the handbook.
What's going on?
Yeah.
But one thing that's particularly powerful in these priest decks, generally control value style priest decks in general, is the ability to Shadow Visions for the Ungoro pack from Elise. We see the Shadow Visions in the far left side of the hand, and here, Rutgers is setting up for that possibility. If they get a clear turn from this Doomsayer, they're able to potentially generate a lot of value with that Shadow Visions if it does find the pack, and also just set up a strong board of their own with potentially the Priest of the Feast.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. This matchup, I'm not going to lie, I really have not seen a one-off priest since Journey to Ungoro came out, but I have played a fair bit of Elemental Shaman, and I got to say, Elemental Shaman, it has some critical mass power points. Blaze Caller, Kalamos, yeah, those are really strong. They can do some direct damage, and that's a big deal. But it doesn't really have that critical mass point that Shaman used to have, and I really feel like this kind of priest can actually just outpace it, especially if Shadow Visions can get to a Dragonfire Potion, which is realistically the ultimate insurance policy. The Jade package that used to be run in Shaman is kind of trimmed down a little bit. I believe the Jade Golems only actually get as big as 6/6, potentially off double Jade Lightning, double Jade Claws, and Eye of Blackpaw. So I actually really like Priest's chance in this one.
Yeah, and the Pint-Sized Potion they actually got off of the Cabal Chemist allows them to Cabal Shadow Priest Assertive of Kalamos. That was a 4-attack minion that didn't cause them any trouble at all. It decided to work for them instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, you never have to kill him if you just take him to your side.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Rutgers is just having so much fun in this match. We've seen them laughing, kind of jumping around in their chairs, and it's awesome to see. It's, obviously this tournament, there's a lot on the line, $160,000 in scholarship prize pooling, but, you're still out here, you're still playing Hearthstone with your friends, you're playing in front of a great audience here in the Santa Ana Esports Arena, so awesome to see them being so emotive as they are kind of doing cheeky things on the board.
They're not even British lads doing cheeky things.
You don't have to be British to be cheeky. That's what Raven has taught me.
Okay, but Raven's British.
Well, yeah, but it's basically like he gives you permission. Like you're not allowed to be cheeky unless you consult a British person.
Okay, so you have to get permission
It's
to
written.
be cheeky.
It's a signed contract.
All right.
Yeah. Yep. History lesson. I mean, we're teaching people a lot of things here.
Yeah, you learn something new every day.
As the old man desk here. All right, so the debate here, do you put the weapon into the Cabal Shadow Priest or the totem? Ultimately decides to sacrifice the Healing Stream totem, and at this point, they're making sure to keep the Elemental Chain going, which is very important for this deck, but they are starting to run low on resources, and Shaman doesn't really draw cards.
Yeah, and this is, a little bit of an awkward spot there because I think we saw a little bit of indecision from Riverside there as they were debating, okay, well, are we going to play this thing from below to protect our Flame Tongue Totem? Do we need to play the Firefly to ensure that the Stone Sentinel is available as a play next turn? And they kind of went to the end of the rope there, and it's not clear from sort of their the pace of play that they were terribly happy with how things went.
Yeah, now we see Medivh could have been played on this turn, but it's worth noting that the value of spells in hand for the Priest, it would have been respectively a Powered Shield 1-drop, Potion of Madness, or Shadow Visions. Dragonfire Potion did just come into the hand, so this may not necessarily be the turn to bring out the Medivh.
Yeah, Medivh's an interesting card because you really want to ensure that you are playing it at a point that you are likely to want to play big spells soon. If you're likely to want to play, say, Shadow Visions or Potion of Madness, you're going to get pretty low value from Atiesh. But, for instance, if you were able to Shadow Visions, grab a, say, Free from Amber, and then set up Medivh, it is a huge board swing.
Yeah, and you have to assume with the build of this deck that I would say Free from Amber is probably going to be in this list, especially if you're bothering to run Medivh.
Yes, certainly. So far, I'm kind of loving the Rutgers list here. It's everything I always want to play. So I'm really curious to see what else is in this deck.
Yeah, meanwhile, on the side of UC Riverside, they did just draw that Manatide Totem. We were talking that, Shaman does have some issues drawing cards. That can certainly help, although there's no reason to believe that that's going to survive more than one turn.
Yeah, it's tough for the Shaman to come back from this kind of deficit against such a big board here. There's a lot of health in these minions. They already used a Lightning Storm earlier, so they have to pick up another kind of board clear. Even something like Volcano.
I was going to say, it probably has to be Volcano.
Well, but there's so much health on Rutgers' side of the board that even Volcano, is not looking like it will be enough to clear things off. But they're going to go ahead and Stone Sentinel up to protect themselves. But there's a lot of tools available to Rutgers to fight through this.
Now, Brian, it's totally possible I just missed the YouTube video on this one, but I am curious, what is your opinion on Stone Sentinel?
On Stone Sentinel? I actually think I overrated Stone Sentinel initially, in part because I feel like I probably underrated Blazecaller. Stone Sentinel, I think, is in many cases just not going to be as impressive as Blazecaller in terms of its ability to generate powerful board swings in a lot of situations. But speaking of board swings, this Potion of Madness is going to make a easy clear available for Rutgers. Going to take out pretty much all the meaningful minions, and now they drop Medivh. So if things were looking bad for Riverside a moment ago, now they're looking even worse. Yeah,
maybe the only good news here is that, it doesn't really seem like Rutgers has a huge way to capitalize on Atiesh just yet. You're probably not going to Dragonfire Potion your own board when you're ahead, so it's going to require them to draw into things, but even without that, I mean, Medivh's just a 7/7 body. You can just put things on the board and kind of keep bullying the Shaman back off. And yeah, this is so weird. There's no Elemental Destruction to just come in and potentially clear up the board. And Elemental Destruction wouldn't even necessarily be that crazy powerful against this board. Yeah, the 1-mana minions are going to get some chip damage in, but this is just a grim situation for the Elemental Shaman.
Look, Rutgers is just cracking up. They're clearly having so much fun here. And yeah, probably not quite as fun for Riverside as they are kind of desperation Maelstrom portaling, trying to clear up as much as they can, but they remain decidedly behind in this game.
Well, and that's worth noting. We were talking about the competitive experience of Rutgers versus UC Riverside, and the demeanors are just night and day. UC Riverside are just locked in, they're focused. We've already seen them make some plays that, we don't know that they were necessarily incorrect, but we did kind of stop to question them. Meanwhile, Rutgers is just having a party over there. Noblord's laughing, leading the team. So this is a very interesting interesting match between two very different teams.
While Pyromancer picked up, I think we're just going to see a Dragonfire Potion clear off all of the Riverside board, leaving the Servant of Calamos, which, by the way, if you remember, was stolen by a Cabal Shadow Priest a bunch of turns ago, generating a 6-drop minion. Ooh, Rathian.
I mean, it's not necessarily as impressive as some other 6 minions, but it does have Taunt on it, which, if you're going to get a minion coming with Taunt is,
It says Dragon on it, but it's not a dragon.
We haven't reached a point anywhere in the meta where Black Knight is very popular. I really thought we would, with Quest Warrior being so popular. So 4-5 with Taunt, not bad.
I'm very disappointed that there was no Ungoro pack there.
Positioning.
Order.
Positioning.
If you played the 2-cost spell first, you would have had Taunt on the right.
I thought Noblord was a pro player. I mean, how does this happen? Degenerates.
Now we see, the difficulty of maneuvering these turns sometimes with the Elemental Shaman deck. Blazecaller picked up, but there was no Elemental played the turn before, so it is not active. That means that Rutgers will get a full turn with this Flame Tongue and Rathian here, so they're going to be able to do a lot of damage to the Riverside board.
Yeah, this is really the point where Elemental Shaman really shows what its deck condition is, which is play stuff. Yeah. Didn't have the ability to leverage the Blazecaller, and even if they did, realistically, the Blazecaller is going to remove 1 minion, and the Shaman's just so far behind on resources at this point. It really just shows why Elemental Shaman, while probably a reasonable ranked play deck, isn't necessarily doing all that much in competitive play. There's no critical mass, there's no finality to it, and you aren't generating enough resources to keep up with some of these more control-oriented decks.
Well, find a Servant Calamos, but yeah, they are pretty far behind. Can't really spend the turn discovering here. We're probably going to have to see this Blazecaller take something out for Riverside to get back into this board, and even then, it's just so difficult for the Shaman to catch up with the degree of snowballing the Priest has had so far.
Yeah, it looks like the Blazecaller being targeted towards that Darkshire Alchemist, and yeah, I mean, great, you got a minion off the board, but again, that minion's probably just going to go down to the Rathian, and I don't know, things continue looking really dicey for UC Riverside.
Ooh, what's in the box? Cabal Courier.
It could be anything. It could even be...
Oh, they don't have a dragon in their hand. Yeah. Unlucky. There's a Twisting Nether, which is hilarious, by the way. They have a Twisting Nether with Atiash up. It's like, if we fall behind, we can just Twisting Nether.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you just take Dragon Operative for the body. Oh, they took Twisting Nether. I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
We saw the team kind of cracking up. Orpheus was looking extremely animated as they were discussing it, probably having the same conversation we were. Yeah. It was just, hey, if something, I guess, goes suddenly wrong, there's the panic button.
And now I think they're discussing the possible trades here on the board, exactly how they want to maneuver, actually attacking in. And it looks like Rathian is going to give his life. He must remain hidden, and now he's dead.
You don't sacrifice the Atiasher, but I'm just saying, Flame Tongue Totem at this point.
Get it, Searing Totem, punch it down. No,
yeah, Flame Tongue Totem, have your moment with Searing Totem. Rutgers realizing they're just so far ahead that you're better off just saving the Atiash on the, mind-boggling possibility that you have to Twisting Nether to clear the board.
Pick up a Jade Claws, amusingly enough, right when Ooh,
okay, got some pretty...
Calamos Alec here.
I was going to say, there's 2 cards there you can choose from, and then that third card on the left, no. But Calamos, at this point, would actually do a number on the board, would be able to clear out 3 minions, but it's going to have to wait until next turn, so... Does the Elemental not being played on this turn, if you're Rutgers, tell you something?
Well, you did play an Elemental. You did play. You could have any number of powerful, high-cost elementals, and also just the fact that you want to get the Jade Claws down. So you are set up for next turn. Curator, all right.
And this is just a Brian Kibler approved deck. If you're wondering how to...
Oh my God, sign me up.
If you want Brian Kibler to favorite your tweet, this is it. You just send him a screenshot of your best one-off dragon. Giant Wasp, 3-mana 2/2 beast, stealth, poisonous. This card in Arena is nuts. It is an absolute bully. And we see it, Rutger thinks it's good enough to actually include in a constructed standard $160,000 in scholarship prizing tournament deck.
I love it. I love this deck already. It's so sweet.
Yeah, that's high praise. You're probably just going to take this deck out after and just play it yourself, right?
I mean, there's a good chance that I'm streaming this on Monday. Let me tell you.
Great, and then when this suddenly becomes really popular on the ladder, we know who to blame. Rutgers was patient 0.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, Calamos are the elements combined. He's Captain Planet over here. Throw in Invocation of Air, going to help clear off most things from the board of Rutgers here. But they make it the bad news that there's just a Twisting Nether.
I hope that's what comes out right here. That would just
yeah.
make my day. I mean, look, you have the Atiash up. Just go ahead and do it.
Get him.
Come on.
Get him.
Do it. Wish I had one more mana. I wish they could just Twisting Nether Giant Wasp like your move.
I mean, they do have the ability to possibly just trade and Shadow or Death and save the Twisting Nether in the case they do fall significantly far behind. But you don't get an 8-drop that way, and you get to save your Shadow or Death. Interestingly, they did. I was going to say they have a second death, but the first death was picked up by Shadow Visions. So still looks totally singleton. We actually have not seen either Kazakus or Raza yet.
We have to ask, because obviously we won't have the chance to see this deck again, so I have to know. Kazakis has to be in this deck.
Oh, well,
Raza has to be in this deck as well.
Ooh, Charge Devils with an attack face, yes!
Wow.
I love it!
The absolute meme dream here, and I wouldn't expect anything less from this team.
For those of you who may be confused by that, the can't attack heroes this turn is a battle cry of Charge Devilsaur. So if you get it into play other than summoning it from your hand, you can attack with it. So coming off of Atiash, coming off of Free from Amber, you can just get them.
And that is exactly what we just saw. That is a mean-spirited dinosaur.
He's just all fired up, man.
Yeah,
He's
normally.
not mean-spirited. He's just charged up and ready to go.
Well, I was going to say, and I'm not even sure a dinosaur you can really describe as being mean-spirited. It's a dinosaur. It's like a shark, right? Like they don't have feelings. Ooh, there's the pack.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Oh, Brian, I've never seen a grown man so happy about a colorful card game.
This is fantastic.
King Mosh, okay.
They
you got
even
the
got a golden
legendary.
I mean, the Primordial Drake can come down and clear off the entire opposing board.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I would take it. I say next turn, even though you... Well, no. Okay. I say next turn you play just King Mosh. Just go.
They choose not to go for the full board clear with the Radiant Elemental, just pushing damage to face, which makes sense. Makes sense. And yeah, the Tolvir, Stone Shaper, and Tar Creeper, good defensive minions, but they're not good at defending you against a complete Ungoro pack waiting in Rutgers' hand here.
Yeah, UC Riverside continuing their agenda of playing things in their hand.
Mind Vision has been nerfed. They have no cards at hand.
Wow. That's the pity thing right there. Yeah, look, the stop, they're already dead.
They could go for the King Mosh here to clear off the Tar Creeper and the Jade Golem. And also just, by the way, get a King Mosh into play.
Sure. I've actually yet to see the animation. That's pretty savage.
It's awesome. The animation is great. And the more minions there are that are on the board that get killed by it, the more the slashes come across. It's really cool. And yeah, the writing is long been on the wall, and Rutgers takes game number 2 in this set, evening up this set and putting themselves overall even in the match.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Coming into this next game here, I really want to see UC Riverside. Like, just make sure that they're calm, they're collected, they're not necessarily feeling it. Because I think after a loss like that to a deck like that, it can actually play havoc with your kind of mental state about the state of your match.
It's like we just got memed on. What happened?
Oh,
what happened?
And again, just look at the mannerisms of the team. Again, night and day. You know, if UC Riverside just looks over and sees Rutgers just laughing and having a good time, and UC Riverside just stone face looking at their computers trying to figure out what went wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is definitely tough when especially when you're ahead and the games just start slipping away from you. Yeah. They won the first 2 games. The last 2 games have both gone Rutgers' way. So these are again, college students. They're not players who are necessarily really used to being in this kind of high-pressure competitive situation. But let's take a look at how things have gone so far, as we see that was a game evening up set number 1. So that is tied 1 game apiece. And we see that UC Riverside has won a game in set 3, while Rutgers has won a game in set 2. So this match overall is completely tied up.
Yeah, we're actually going to bounce down to set number 3 where we'll have game 2. So it is going to be Vince with the Priest and the Hunter versus Ludicolo with the Rogue and the Shaman. And yeah, I really want to see UC Riverside kind of calm down a little bit here. Maybe stop looking so tense and just, hey, be confident. You won the first 2 games. It's clear you can do this. So that's really what I want to see from them in this next game.
And I'm again interested to see what the Shaman deck does look like from Rutgers, because we've seen just a couple of Shamans so far, and not really success in that last match. So if what exactly the Shaman deck looks like, because we haven't really seen a wide variety. It's just been Elemental Shaman so far.
Yeah, and honestly, if anybody's going to bring something that's a little more unconventional, it's going to be Rutgers. Honestly, like that Priest just really proves it that we're just going to kind of bring what we want.
Did you watch the last match and see San Antonio's decks? They were crazy.
Yeah, no, that's true. And they did get the win, so maybe there is an argument here that, in this very young meta, there's definitely the argument of bringing things that nobody's expecting.
Actually, we're looking at sitting in the player lounge with the other teams, and we saw the opening hand. It's like, did they forget to put Quest in their Quest Rogue deck? And no, it's a Quest-ing Rogue deck. It's just the old school style. But into this game, it is Hunter for UC Riverside against Shaman for Rutgers, and a Bloodlust, Bloodcell Corsair. This looks like maybe that more aggressively oriented Jade / Elemental / Pirate Shaman deck.
Yeah, we'll have to see more information in the coming turns.
It could just be aggro, though.
Bloodlust being in Shaman, now that's not really something we're seeing a whole lot because the meta really isn't necessarily in favor of it. But, okay, there's no Unite the Murlocs quest. Primal Fin Totem is just being run here because it puts a minion on the board at the end of every turn.
Yeah, Primal Fin Totem is a card that has actually been surprisingly commonly showing up in non-Murloc decks, simply because it generates something that your opponent has to deal with early, or it's going to just keep generating minions. That's super powerful with Flametongue Totem, and it's really powerful with Bloodlust, which we saw in the opening mulligan for Rutgers. So if that does stick in play, which it can when you have a start like this to suppress your opponent's early game, it can generate a lot of value.
Yeah, Hunter really wants to just get on the board, and this really hasn't necessarily changed all that much since the days of yore, but Hunter really just wants to get on the board and wants to start asserting themselves very early. And if you do manage to kind of bully them off the board, they have Unleashed the Hounds, but at this point in the meta, that's pretty much all they have. There are no explosive traps these days. Explosive Shot, Grievous Bite really haven't made their mark in this meta, so I think the best answer here is just exactly what they're doing. Get on the board.
Yeah, I really like this play from UC Riverside, recognizing that they want to spread out as much as they can right now. They're super vulnerable to a possible Maelstrom Portal, but they really need to get ahead on the board here, and they want to ensure that they have something in play for the Crackling Razor Maw. They, unfortunately for them, will not, since the Jade Claws will take out the Ugly Cat as his cuter brother does go down to the Pirate.
I thought we were going to make it through that whole sequence without you critiquing the cats. Stop cat shaming. Don't cat shame.
I'm not cat shaming. I'm just pointing out that there's one cute cat and then there's another cat.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you. Not that you particularly care. You seem very set in stone on this issue, but fortunate bounce from the Fiery Bat there for UC Riverside was able to clean up the board a little bit, and Jade Claw is going to deal with the Crackling Razor Maw very handily, and it's worth pointing out, UC Riverside so understands they need to just stick on the board that they went ahead and they forego the value from Crackling Razor Maw and just understand they need to get on the board, and if Crackling Razor Maw isn't buffing a minion, it's pretty bad.
That was actually the best result available from the Animal Companion. Given the context of the game, they really wanted to kill the totem, and a Misha or Leok would just die to Jade Lightning. So Huffer coming out gets the totem down, so there's no longer just the snowballing effect of that Murloc every single turn.
Yeah, so looking here, Rutgers could just choose to trade these in and play the Jade Spirit, which is what it looks like they're going to do. They could have put up the Jade Lightning, but you're using a spell that does 4 damage to do 2 damage, and at this point, Jade Spirit just seems like the better play.
It generates pretty reasonable board presence here, and makes that Deadly Shot look a little bit awkward. We see Riverside, I imagine they're going to go with the Jeweled Macaw to see what they find for their random beast. Babbling Bird.
I like that name so much. Oh, Babbling Bird into Babbling Bird.
They're going infinite. Number 2. Can they keep it up? No. Ooh,
no,
but Swamp King
yeah.
Dread.
Okay.
That's a big one.
You know what? I will take that. Swamp King Dread, in case you're not aware, 7 mana, 9/9 beast, and after your opponent plays a minion, it automatically attacks it. So Swamp King Dread is actually just incredibly powerful minion.
It is. A couple of funny notes. If it's frozen, it doesn't attack the minion.
Well, obviously.
And it tends to be pretty weak to poisonous minions.
Yeah, that is definitely just throw that Stubborn Gastropod out and watch as, unfortunately, the Swamp King goes down. But that's a ways off, and
Yes.
yeah.
Swamp King is powerful, but it's expensive. And right now, UC Riverside is very much behind on this board, even more so if Rutgers just decides to develop both of these totems. It looks like they're having a little bit of a debate, perhaps trying to figure out what their best option is to play around cards like Unleash the Hounds, which could be very detrimental for their current board state.
Yeah, if they could just know that they were going to get a Healing Stream totem off the totem roll here, I actually think they would just go for that, because that does play really, really well against the Unleash the Hounds. But it's a 25% chance here versus the Primal Fin totem, which makes your board go wider. If you're looking at, potentially picking up a Bloodlust in the next 2 turns, you could just ice out the game that quickly.
Yeah. And pick up a Thing from Below, which has been discounted a few times now.
Yep.
Down to just 3 cost here. Kill Command from Riverside, not what they're looking for. They have the ability to clear off 1 minion, but there's a lot in play for Rutgers.
Yeah, things are turning against UC Riverside really quickly in this series, and to be honest, this one is just a matter of Rutgers running a version of Shaman that gets on the board quickly, continues to sustain board presence, and never lets up. And UC Riverside's hand, since kind of that early double 1-drop turn, has really looked pretty grim as they continue to just draw reactionary spells and high mana cost minions.
Yeah, and this, they're just not letting up on the pressure at all here. Rutgers picks up a Jade Claws. They can Thing from Below, Jade Claws if they want. It will actually prevent them from spawning a Murloc if they do play the Jade Claws, but they will get a 3/3 on the board instead. They could just forgo the Thing from Below entirely to get the value, but I suspect they're going for the tempo. Yeah, 5/5 taunt comes down, and this is looking very grim for Riverside.
Yeah, I mean, the 5/5 with taunt coming down, Unleash the Hounds is suddenly much less powerful, and realistically, the Hunter has no other way to bring the board to heal, and Unleash here just basically does nothing. It is pretty much that. You kill Command, you get through a 5/5 potentially. What do you do with the Hounds? Nothing that impactful, and you're not developing anything. Kill Command does not make a Jade Golem when you cast it, sad to say. It is not Jade Kill Command.
Yeah, Savannah Highmane, available for Riverside this turn. It's a great minion, but it is not particularly good when you're staring down all of these minions on the opposing side of the board, not to mention the Hex.
Yeah, Rutgers is continuing to, chill and just hang out like they're playing just ranked play in the dorm. They're just, oh, look at that. We made a 5/5. That's pretty good.
And yeah, well, that's going to do it. Bloodlust with a full board. That will end the game on the spot. Rutgers going to tie up this set. And yeah, we're going to be looking to continue this series next game.
Yeah, we actually saw over on UC Riverside, there was a little kind of sarcastic clap that came out, just like, oh, you got Bloodlust, congrats, you got on the board. I really do think UC Riverside looking a little bit under the pressure here.
Yeah, they definitely seem like they're getting a little flustered by the results of these past few games. They had a great start in the series. They won the first game in 2 sets, but they've lost every game since then. Yeah,
California actually came into today with 2 teams here, and UC Riverside really quickly being pushed back against the ropes. They are California's last hope, as we did see UC Berkeley unfortunately fall earlier in the day.
And they have a large supporting fan group in the crowd, including their
they have a knight.
Their knight in shining armor.
He needs to get up on that stage and help him.
Shining armor. So yeah, I'm sure they're getting a lot of support from the crowd, even as things are turning against them.
Yeah, and pointing out just the overall skill and ability of Rutgers, it's definitely, if they end up not being able to eke out a win here, hard to feel too bad about that. But taking a look at where we stand in set 1, things are pretty divided. The next win will decided rather, and then in set 2, we are looking at 1 win in a game going over to Rutgers, and then in set 3, we have again a situation where the next win will decide it. So, despite these losses, UC Riverside is actually not in that terrible of a place necessarily. Yeah,
they started off so well that they're just a little bit behind in the series. They are behind a game in the set we're going to be jumping into next, which is set number 2, where Noblord was able to take that first game.
Yeah, so it is going to be set 2, game 2 up next, and it's going to be so legit with the Mage and the Druid, with Noblord, with the Warrior and the Warlock, and again, we've kind of belabored the point over the course of the day, but Warrior is definitely in that top tier right now in terms of overall power in the decks. You can play Pirate Warrior, you can play Quest Warrior. They're both really good. Then I would say Mage comes in there as certainly a powerhouse class that continues to be on the rise in a lot of respects as a response to Quest Rogue. And then you go to Druid, and then kind of at the bottom there, although you wouldn't know from today, is Warlock.
We have seen Warlock actually put up great results throughout the day today. I know we've seen it win twice. I'm actually not sure if we've seen it lose at all.
I don't believe so, but at the same time, I was getting lunch at some point, so who knows what happens when you're getting lunch.
You were busy eating while the Ravenous Pterodactyls were eating, Devilsaur eggs and such. But, well, it will be Pirate Warrior for Rutgers here against what looks to be a pretty typical freeze mage from Riverside with that Blizzard Doomsayer Pyroblast.
Yeah, this score you're seeing on the left, as a reminder, is the score for set number 2. So Rutgers just needs to win this game with Pirate Warrior, and then they will take the set and have 1 set under their belts. Reminder, they need to win 2 sets to take the match and advance to the semifinals.
Yeah, so right now the pressure is on Riverside. If they lose this game, this set will go to Rutgers, and then they will be under the gun, not being able to lose a single additional game in the entire match.
Yeah, I'm not actually super surprised to see Rutgers bring Pirate Warrior. I believe, if memory serves, Noblord has been someone who's in support of just how powerful that deck is. I am kind of surprised to see double Mortal Strike, and even more surprised to see Spellbreaker. Yeah,
Spellbreaker is a really interesting inclusion. I've actually run into Pirate Warriors with Spellbreaker on the ladder, and I've even run into one that had Spellbreaker and Black Knight. And they really, really want to beat taunts, apparently. But it is a card that can get you through those big taunts, whether they're from Taunt Warrior or from other decks that can otherwise get in the way of your very aggressive starts.
Yeah, speaking of aggressive starts, now Southsea deckhand is not ideal necessarily. Obviously, what you'd want to be seeing is that in the ZOS first mate, but it's not terrible. And if the mage chooses to, develop something that is not a ping or a Doomsayer here, you're suddenly in a good spot because you have the coin Southsea captain.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the Doomsayer from Riverside has to look at least somewhat attractive because you can potentially shut down your opponent's potential development in the next turn. But at the same time, there's 2 1-health minions in play, and the Doomsayer becomes much less likely to survive, though, as the game goes on.
Now, I actually did not... I'm not surprised to see this from UC Riverside. I don't think it's a bad play, period, but Heroic Strike is what you had to play around there, and there is the Heroic Strike. I'm not surprised to see this from UC Riverside. Again, not only does it clear the board and give you a little bit of time, but it's kind of a little mini win right there. You're clearing the board, you're stalling out the Pirate for a little bit, and in UC Riverside's position where they've just had a couple of consecutive losses, I think in the situation it would feel really good to just get something to go your way, even if it's only a temporary thing. But yeah, Heroic Strike off the top for Rutgers, pretty much going to confirm what the Doomsayer knew all along, that the end was coming just for him.
Yeah, and now this is a little bit of an awkward spot for Riverside. They can ping to remove one of these pirates, which would prevent the possible snowballing of the captains coming out, but doesn't really use their mana efficiently, and they have a bunch of 3-cost cards, including the Arcane Intellect and Acolyte of Pain, which look pretty attractive to get down.
Yeah, worth pointing out as well that if you do this, if you play the 3-drop here, your next turn could just be ping into maybe hopefully drawing something that costs 2 mana, because otherwise it's looking pretty grisly with the Fireball. But going ahead and taking out the Southsea deckhand, I definitely do not mind this.
Yeah, I think that they are playing inefficiently, but they are playing to survive, and that's the most important thing. If they had not ended up killing that deckhand, it would have gotten out of range of ping, and now suddenly things have gotten a lot more awkward. And yeah, look at Fireball, the respect for the Southsea captain. They realize they need to do all that they can to take out as much of the board presence from Rutgers as possible right away.
Yeah, unfortunate news, Southsea captain is just going to come right back out. Curious to see if they pair it with the upgrade. They choose not to. I want to go back to that last turn, though. Sorry, turn 3 for So Legit and UC Riverside. Even if they hadn't pinged, if they'd chosen to use one of their 3-mana options, I'm going to guess it was going to be Arcane Intellect, and it wouldn't have been the Ice Block. So the Mediz Valet off the top actually wouldn't have mattered there. Although, we did talk about the potential for a 2-mana ping and then a 2-mana card off the top. So that would have been something, worth reviewing, I think, after the fact.
Yeah. This turn, though, from Riverside is hugely powerful.
Yep.
Developing an Ice Block and getting the Valet down to kill the captain, as well as contest the patches that's on the board. So, now all of a sudden things are looking a lot better for Riverside with that board swing.
Yeah, and Rutgers really didn't get off to any kind of explosive start. It was very much South Sea Captain is great, it buffs your pirates, but since UC Riverside made the decision to ping the South Sea deckhand, the actual effect of that was very minimal. And yeah, Mediz Valet, very timely there, able to deal with the South Sea Captain. Rutgers didn't get that start that you tend to want with Nazas first made, potentially Fiery War Axe upgrades that gives you the big weapons. It was pretty much all coming from the board.
This is an interesting play here from Rutgers. They decide to invest in building a Frothing Berserker. I think recognizing that if they were to just go in with the Arcanite Reaper, it's not going to cut it. They're going to need some repeated minion damage rather than just swing with the Reaper to actually get enough damage to actually close this game out. Now, though, Riverside has a lot of time to just draw some cards.
Yeah, it is important to recognize which tools are kind of most useful to you. And I agree. I think the time of things being relevant on the board is starting to wind down. So it's important to get that Frothing Berserker out while you can. Obviously, the mage is not currently hurting for cards.
Acolyte Pain going to give them some more cards, but this is an opportunity for Frothing Berserker to get some work done.
Yeah, you can equip the Arcanite Reaper here, play the Dread Corsair for free. You could even go so far as to upgrade the Arcanite Reaper if you just want to start getting damage in now.
One interesting thing regarding the hand from Rutgers here, the Spellbreaker that we were a little bit surprised to see, it also happens to work pretty well against the freeze effects from the Freeze Mage. You can potentially free up a minion that's blizzarded down. Unfortunately, if you used it on a Frothing Berserker, you lose all the buffs. Because
he gets a lot less mad suddenly.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I'm chilled out, man. I'm
chilled
out now.
You know what? Life's not so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just not mad all the time.
He's not really Berserk anymore.
No,
nor is he frothing.
No, he's just a nice troll.
Your magic shall not save.
All right, well, in this case, the Spellbreaker was just going to go ahead and neutralize the card draw of the Acolyte of Pain. So, very interesting lines taken by Rutgers here, trying to ensure that Riverside is not able to assemble the critical mass of damage they need and need to deal with this board.
One consideration I would want to point out is if you had, you have Arcanite Reaper, you have Upgrade, you have to get that damage in, you have to sequence it out over multiple turns. Mm-hmm. So if you did upgrade it, that's over 3 turns, you get that damage in. So I do kind of wonder if, I don't want to necessarily sit here and question Rutgers. I think they're all much better players than I am, but I do think it's worth the consideration. When are you going to get that weapon damage in?
Right. It's true. And now, perhaps this is when it will begin. The Arcanite Reaper. I think we may see, the first mate into Arcanite Reaper into upgrade to ensure that they get the minion into play as well as the max damage from this big axe.
Yeah, so really important damage going to start coming down the line for Rutgers here. And this is an area where Freeze Mage is traditionally going to struggle because you can't just freeze a weapon short of Frostbolt. Obviously, you could with Ice Lance in the past, but that damage is just going to start coming in.
The Arcanologist is actually a really big draw for Riverside here because it not only gives them a Ice Barrier, which is going to absorb a lot of the damage from that Arcanite Reaper, but also gives them a minion on the board to help contest this Dread Corsair.
2 Mortal Strikes in the hand and a coin, so not much else going on otherwise. And it looks like that Pirate, there's probably reasonable to assume Dread Corsair is going to die on the next turn, so there's no even chance of drawing the Pirate that actually buffs your weapon. In terms of where the damage is coming from moving forward, I'm imagining Leroy. I'm imagining another upgrade, but that's pretty much going to be it, I think. I mean, you can put stuff on the board, but odds of it actually doing much against this Freeze Mage, not knowing their hand, seems pretty bad.
Yeah, a lot of resources available to Riverside here too. They find another Doomsayer to even more eliminate the threat of the board. Frostbolt can shut down a turn of Arcanite Reaper, and there's even just 2 glyphs, so they can even glyph into more ice blocks, more ice barriers to keep themselves alive even further.
All right, see what comes off of this glyph. Their options are Arcane Intellect, Spellbender, and Fireball. Now, Spellbender, would maybe be a consideration if Mortal Strike was being, launched towards a minion, but unfortunately, Spellbender only takes a spell that's being targeted at a minion, so much less enthusiastic about it. Just go ahead and go with Arcane Intellect to dig into the deck.
Yeah, and now, Riverside, they have pretty solid control over, it must feel like they have pretty solid control of this game. They're looking to dig for Alexstrasza, something that can help really solidify their ability to just not get burned out, because they're not going to die to minions at this point. They have so much in their hand that can help neutralize that threat.
Yeah, I like what they did there, although it's worth pointing out that had they worked that turn out a little differently, they could have traded the Arcanologist and pinged into the Dread Corsair, and then used the Frostbolt just to make sure the weapon damage wasn't coming in, but they're feeling pretty comfortable about their life total, so I actually like what they did there.
I mean, in this case, you know, it's not as if Rutgers wants to spend damage at this point to kill the Arcanologist. And you know, while Riverside does have relatively strong control over the state of the game, they need to end the game. You know, there's only so much burn in Rutgers' deck, and perhaps they're able to outreach that with their ice blocks and ice barrier and such. But they need to end the game quickly, because they don't have Alexstrasza in it. They have no way, if Rutgers were to be able to break their block and just break their other block, well, now they're just going to die to the next burst spell that comes.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out here, Rutgers can just go ahead and pop the block. They're going to have to at least invest the Axe Swing and the 2 Mortal Strikes.
And then there's got to be some debate over, okay, you know, is it worth breaking the block here at 4 when we don't have the ability to even possibly break it the next turn? Decide that they do. And this does potentially insist that either an Alexstrasza or another block comes out. And yeah, they're going to go ahead and just use the coin to get an armor up in here to try and buy themselves a little bit more time against the burn from the Freeze Mage deck to get themselves additional burst.
Yeah, and realistically, there was never going to come a point where they needed to do anything that required more than 10 mana, so just fitting in the hero power makes the most sense for the coin. It's
a pretty bad glyph for Riverside here, finding Arcane Missiles, Molten Reflection, and Shatter. You know, they're not really looking for the way to deal with like a big minion, like Frost Nova, Shatter, or anything like that. But that may just be a reasonable option for them. They go with Molten Reflection, maybe just looking to increase their clock, or just give them more card draw off of an additional copied Acolyte.
Yeah, I was thinking in an absolute bind, you could Molten Reflection a Doomsayer, but the point where that seems relevant, if it was ever going to be relevant in any context in this matchup, it feels pretty much long past.
Yeah, and I think that Riverside, what they want to do here is just keep digging. They're going to have to deploy an Ice Block this turn. They don't want to die to Leroy coming off the top of the deck, and they are looking to assemble enough burn to just close the game out, or find Alexstrasza so they can effectively end the game by going back up to 15 life. That actually breaks block here and threatens lethal next turn. So the War Axe plus the deckhand, this was looking like Riverside had things mostly firmly in control, but now there is a Frostbolt available to shut down the War Axe for a single turn, but if another burst card comes off the top, that could just end the game for Noblelord.
Yeah, we have seen one South Sea deckhand. We've seen both Mortal Strikes. What we have not seen is either Kor'kron Elite. Now, I'm curious what was cut to make room for the Spellbreaker, but I can't imagine you're going to cut Kor'kron Elite. Obviously, such a powerful minion for what this deck wants to do.
That's another Pyroblast.
Okay.
That is not what you're looking for at all in this situation.
I think it's going to be Leroy or Kor'kron Elite wins the game here. And even then, if they don't necessarily get an Alexstrasza in the next turn, they only have one ability. They only have the ability to freeze once.
Yeah, Riverside need to dig. They need to find ways to get to those really game-winning cards in their deck. Alexstrasza is the best card in their deck right now because it will set them to 15 life, make the burst potential not really realistic for Rutgers. Gonna go ahead and go digging. Alexstrasza now doesn't do anything though.
I'm curious how many cards they've drawn, though.
Yeah.
It looks like their deck is pretty thin. And
very few cards left in the deck.
Fatigue could be extremely relevant.
I think those Pyroblasted burn spells can probably finish the game
5
out.
cards? Okay.
Yeah,
so I think with 5 cards, you're probably still fine.
The prey again from Rutgers here. They need a burst card. Bloodcell Cultist is not it.
Okay.
But they're
Armor
not dead.
up.
They are not dead yet. They still have another window until Alexstrasza comes down. And Frost Nova,
you got to ping the Blood Mage, but you can't actually. You don't have enough mana at that point to play the Alexstrasza. So
do they have? Have they played both barriers? Or just one barrier so far.
They played one barrier, but it's possible. Not all decks are running 2.
It's true.
Yeah.
But now they need barrier or Frostbolt to just stay in the game.
Yep. And we're going to see the ping come out onto that Blood Mage Thalanos. It is barrier or bust.
And yeah, they taking their time. Pinging the Blood Mage.
That is Medivh's Valet. That is not going to do it.
And yeah, this game looked like it was firmly in the hand of UC Riverside. They had accumulated so many resources, had eliminated so much of the threats from Rutgers, but they just kind of had a series of kind of dry draws in terms of finding the key cards to allow them to stay alive, while Rutgers had the very timely draw of that Fiery War Axe to enable the South Sea deck. And we look, just the absolute, elation from Rutgers as they won a game that was looking like it could be very bad for them. You just see Nobbler's lips, oh my God.
I mean, it's worth pointing out that what the Mage had drawn through its deck for, in a lot of situations, would have actually been extremely powerful against other decks, but it needed Alexstrasza. There was no other negotiation. It had gone through 2 blocks. It had gone through a barrier. Maybe there's a second barrier, but it really needed Alexstrasza to stabilize and then to have that body to begin pushing damage. To your point, it's not just about surviving X amount of turns. Right. It's about turning it into a win.
Yeah, and they're playing against the Warrior deck that, while it's not accumulating lots of armor, is still just kind of getting out of reach every time you use its hero power. But we see how things went there. Noblord picking up the win for Rutgers in set number 2. That is the first set win of the match. And now each of these other matches, either each of these other sets, are tied up at 1 game apiece. So Rutgers need to pick up just a single additional game to close out this match.
Yeah, we're going to head back to set number 1, Ricky versus Orpheus. So it is going to be Warrior versus Hunter. And if Orpheus can pull this out, that's it. Rutgers advances to the semifinals tomorrow.
Yeah, and UC Riverside, if they pick up a win, they live to fight another match, live to fight another game. So
yeah,
it definitely very, very high stakes going into this next game.
Yeah, and Rutgers is just riding a high right now. They lost 2 games really early on, but from then it's been absolute success. And they're doing it in ways where they're identifying their lines and then they're going for it. We saw them choose to use the Mortal Strikes to pop the block there. They didn't have really any other cards in hand except the deckhand. They were giving up their weapons. So yeah, you can argue Pirate Warrior, a lot of direct damage in that deck, but you still have to make the read that this is the time to pop the block.
And I think that they played pretty unintuitively through a number of stages of that particular game. They used the Spellbreaker on the Acolyte of Pain. They attacked their patches in to just pump up their Frothing Berserker, which got a little bit of extra damage in over the course of that game. So that was definitely an interesting game from Pirate Warrior, despite the fact that many people think Pirate Warrior is incredibly straightforward.
Yeah, and sometimes in UC Riverside's defense, Alexstrasza is a one-off card in your deck.
Right.
Sometimes it's just down there in those last 5 cards, which presumably is where it was, but UC Riverside has to have a short memory here. They have to come back and decide they're going to win this one. It's going to be Quest Warrior taking on what appears to be that very stable mid-range Hunter style.
Yeah, and mid-range Hunter historically has typically been pretty strong against controlling Warrior decks. It's a little bit different in this particular style of match because you're not just trying to attrition your opponent out of removal. We just see the Savannah High main picked up in the draw, and if you're able to just establish a strong board, it can be very difficult for them to deal with everything because you're just presenting consistently so many threats.
Yeah, and it looks like those cats are actually going to survive a turn. So often it feels like they're just fodder. Those poor brave cats.
They never feel that way to me.
What about the cat you don't like?
Oh yeah, that's we can forget about Tabby or
Oh,
Alley Cat.
we can forget about Tabby Cat.
No, we're not gonna forget about Tabby
Heard
Cat.
you, Brian. Once again, reminder on the left side of the screen there, you see the scores. Now, if Rutger wins this one, Orpheus piloting the deck, then that's it. Rutgers is going on to the semifinals and will close out day 1 of the 2017 Hearthstone Collegiate Championship.
And quick turn from Rutgers here. They just go ahead and hero power, choosing not to play the Jeweled Macaw. That would potentially just play into a Ravaging Ghoul, and they decide they want to save that body for later. They do have an Eaglehorn Bow that can take down this Ghoul here if they so choose, and yeah, it's exactly what they do, keeping the board clear for future beasts on future turns.
Yeah, Hunter, I will say, Hunter is one of those classes where a lot of times when you're watching the game from home and you're like, oh, there's a very clear play based on the mana cost you have. A lot of times in the early turns, that's actually just how it is for Hunter. Now, this is where they begin to run into trouble. The overstated taunts are out. You have to deal with those before you can continue pressing any kind of aggressive agenda. I mean, Brian, what looks good to you here?
Well, I mean, you can clear this off if you want with Kill Command, but that doesn't really develop much of a meaningful board. You can Kill Command plus, say, just Jeweled Macaw, which leaves the possibility of having something in play to Houndmaster the following turn. It looks like they're just going to go ahead and kindly grandmother hero power. One thing that's very important to note is that these Quest Warrior decks have much lower amount of armor gain than we have historically seen in Control Warrior decks. Usually Control Warrior decks typically over the years have had lots of ways to boost up their armor total. We even saw, sort of record-setting numbers with Justicar Trueheart. That card is gone, and in many cases, these decks will actually need to play with a mere mortal's amount of life total over the course of the game. So these steady shots that we see Rutgers using over the course of these early turns really can add up and put a hurting on the Control Warrior decks.
Yeah, now that said, what Quest Warrior has lost out in terms of absurd armor generation, they've gained in overall board presence, and a lot of those minions on the board having taunt. Ali Armorsmith in the hand of UC Riverside is definitely an MVP taunt, especially when playing against Hunter.
Yeah, and it will come down here, and that armor gain from that is definitely very powerful. The Savannah Highmane, which has historically been the enemy of Control Warrior decks the world over, is available to Rutgers this turn if they want to use the coin. But there is just a strong board from Riverside to contest that body, which can make Scar much less impressive than he could otherwise be.
Yeah, now one play we could see here is that Houndmaster onto the Kindly Grandmother, trade that into the Bloodhoof Brave, swing with the bow as well, and then, the Kindly Grandmother survives. You get a 4-3 on the board. You give up your bow, but you're at least starting to build a semblance of a board. You could even go in with the Jewel Macaw first just to see what you get.
Yeah. And it looks like they're conferring quite heavily in terms of exactly how they want to make this decision. It looks like that they're even inputting things on the other computers here. I'm curious what exactly, if they're taking notes perhaps on the their messaging services there or whatever, the friends list.
All right, it looks like Rutgers actually did freeze, so we have a bit of a tech error. We're going to look into getting that fixed up, but in this particular position here, when you're playing against a Quest Warrior, sometimes a Quest Warrior, because the deck is so much removal, sometimes you enter a situation where the Quest Warrior doesn't really have that good early curve of taunts, so the aggressive deck is allowed to get on the board, start asserting its agenda, and then the Warrior has to fall back to Sleep with the Fishes, Ravaging Ghouls, and Brawl. In this particular situation, though, UC Riverside has a fairly healthy curve of early game taunts.
I think the big issue there was just the turn 2 from Rutgers. Hunter, in particular, against a deck like Taunt Warrior, like Quest Warrior, really relies on curving out very well and being able to continuously apply pressure. The fact that they just hero-powered in turn 2 and then lost their turn 1 board to Ravaging Ghoul that they then had to react to on turn 3 really kind of put them behind the ball throughout the rest of the course of the game. If turn 2 they had played Kindly Grandmother or Crackling Razor Maw, things would have looked a lot different once they got to the middle turns.
Yeah, completely agree, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at the score really quickly, where we stand in this match. As a reminder, Rutgers has already claimed one set with 2 game victories in set number 2. We're looking at set number 1, which is, again, Warrior versus Hunter. If Rutgers wins this, they do advance. If UC Riverside wins this game, they live to fight another day.
Yeah, and the remaining matchup in set number 3 that we may see later would be Priest versus Rogue. So that has a lot of potential on either side in terms of the kind of deck we will see. We've seen a real variety of Rogue decks. We've seen Quest Rogue, we've seen the sort of Flower Miracle Rogue, as well as the Questing Rogue. So a lot of surprises so far in this event for decks.
We do have an update on that last game, though, as there was no clear set lethal. The game was anything but really started. Under TESPA rules, we are going to go ahead and begin a regame. So, we didn't really necessarily waste a lot of time there. And the players were, I think, on turn 5 respectively. So definitely anywhere near lethal being represented.
Yeah, and we're going to just the fairest for both players at this point, for both teams at this point, is to just restart the game.
Yeah. So again, Hunter versus Warrior. We've already been discussing it, but Hunter really does want to get that early curve out, get on the board, start asserting the aggressive agenda, and basically make the Warrior react to it. Because if it starts going into turns where it's Bloodhoof Brave into Ali Armorsmith into Taunt, Primordial Drake, all that nonsense, the Hunter really suffers.
Yeah, and one thing we saw in that game, which I expect we'll see a repeat, was the Riverside team choosing to mulligan away the Quest. This has been kind of a debated thing in a variety of matchups in terms of when do you want your Quest, when do you not, as the Warrior. But in the Hunter matchup, oftentimes you end up winning simply by getting those mid-game big taunts and dominating the board, and having one fewer card in your hand because of the Quest makes it much less likely you get to that point.
Yeah, and we were discussing just how prevalent a school thought it is becoming to mulligan away that Quest. Again, when we are talking about what your experience at home should be, you should definitely consider in each matchup why you would want to mulligan away the quest. But yeah, generally, for the reasons you listed, against more aggressive decks, you want to make sure you're finding options to either press your agenda or have sufficient removal over pressing a quest, which is not necessarily going to help you win the game.
And I consider I would like to advise if your opponent's battle tag is Kibler and you're playing the Rogue quest, you should mulligan that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
That's a surefire way to get into no trouble at all, is to mulligan away that quest. We see the Stonehill Defender being kept for UC Riverside, so that is exactly what you want against an aggressive deck. Stonehill Defender, such a powerful card in the set in general. Meanwhile, Rutgers still having some more conversations. Jeweled Macaw likely to be kept, but you have to figure everything else is just going. Oh, Highmane.
Highmane, though, yeah, that's a card that is just so powerful against the warrior decks because it gives you this strong body. You do have the coin too. I think that if Rutgers didn't have the coin, they almost certainly would not keep the Highmane there. But because they have the coin and can get that out earlier in the game, it can provide them with very, very powerful board presence early on.
Speaking of powerful, now King Mosh in Rutgers' hand could be really big because the Warrior's not expecting to have to play around having its minions undamaged.
And this, the attack with the Fiery War Axe here, respect for the threat of Crackling Razor Maw.
Yep.
If that Jeweled Macaw had lived for a single turn, it would have been much more threatening with the Razor Maw adapt ability.
All right, so Direhorn Hatchling seems like the clear choice to me, but Ornery Direhorn has at least been getting some chatter lately. Brian, what do you like here?
I think you just need the curve here in the position that UC Riverside is in. Generally speaking, I'm not a huge Ornery Direhorn fan in these decks in general. A big part of that is the fact that it costs 6 mana, so you can't play it alongside Sulfuros and use your hero power in the same turn. So I usually like to keep most of my taunt minions at 5 mana or less. Here, the Eaglehorn Bow will help out the Kindly Grandmother to clear through the defender and still threaten a little bit of damage after the fact, but that will leave the Big Bad Wolf open to the Fiery War Axe this turn.
Yeah, and then from here, Rutgers is in a position where if they want to play out the Tundra Rhino, they'll have to give up the coin, which delays the Highmane. Safe to assume the Big Bad Wolf is going away, though, so they're going to have a very interesting turn of their own coming up just next.
Yeah, we did see them choose to keep the Savannah Highmane, and now there's the possibility that they end up in a little bit of an awkward spot in terms of their curve as a result. They did even draw the second Eaglehorn Bow this past turn, so leaving them in a situation where they have duplicate weapons as well.
Yeah, it could just come down to something as simple as Crackling Razor Maw, hero power on the board, but we've been stressing just how important it is for the Hunter to constantly be pressuring.
This is an interesting choice from the Riverside team, taking another Stonehill Defender, who the Rat Pack has got to be a fairly attractive draw here for Rutgers. Oh, they actually are just going to go ahead and coin out the Rhino. All
yeah,
right,
it's basically make them have execute at this point.
Yeah.
Sleep with the Fishes doesn't do it, so it has to be execute.
This does actually kind of throw the Riverside's turn into a little bit of disarray here too. You'd expect that it's very likely that you would have a card like Ornery Direhorn or Alley Armorsmith that they'd want to play on 5 mana, but they're actually getting very much rewarded for the fact that they chose the Stonehill Defender so that they still have a reasonable play alongside the 2 mana for execute on the Tundra Rhino.
Yeah, and for Rutgers, if the Rhino doesn't actually get cleared, you have Rat Pack and then you have Crackling Razor Maw, so things can actually just start getting really out of hand quickly. Good thing for UC Riverside is they try to keep their hopes in this series alive, that they are able to not only execute but develop the board and continue searching for other options, as inglorious as some of them may be.
Yeah, and this is an interesting decision as well for Riverside as far as options are concerned. They have the giant Mastodon, the Harbinger of the Year of the Mammoth himself.
Yeah.
It's the only real mammoth, I think, in the set, right?
Yeah.
But that is a huge body that they could potentially plan to try to build toward later, but they're just going to go ahead and try to play toward the possibility of curving out with the Fen Creeper. Galaka Crawler, no one to eat.
No, it's lean times if you're a crab. Brian, I have to ask you a very important question that has bothered me since like 2014. Why is Mogushan Warden a 1/7 for how buff he is?
He does look pretty ripped.
I was gonna say he looks like he should hit pretty hard.
It's all in his butt apparently. Like
Yeah.
he just squats every day.
We see Mogushan Warden. I mean, look at that guy. That guy
He is pretty
clearly
ripped, yeah.
works out, eats well, one attack. I don't get it. Rat Pack has 2, and it's rats.
This is actually a pretty crucial draw here for UC Riverside, finding the Shield Slam to take out this Rat Pack. which enables them to Ravaging Ghoul away the 5 rats, thanks to the evolution from the Crackling Razor Maw, buffing it up. Now, though, it's turn 6, and that is Scar time. Savannah Highmane kept in the opening hand and comes down right on curve.
Yeah, you might be asking yourself, well, maybe you can just Eagle Hornbow there and just play a cross. No, you play the lion.
No.
You play the lion.
Yeah, I mean, you want to just be able to connect with your Highmane as many times as possible. Kind of the goal in many cases of these mid-range hunter decks. You know, get out a big beast and hit your opponent in the face with it.
Yeah, a noble pastime as any other in the world.
And I think we're just going to see Rutgers, going ahead and using all of their mana here. Galactic Crawler into Bow, punch down the Ravaging Ghoul and Hero Power. And now, there is currently no good answer available to Savannah Highmane for Riverside, so they're going to need to find something pretty soon.
Yeah, or the Fen Creeper.
Oof, that's a big angry matriarch who just saw its little baby die.
Direhorn Matriarch and Direhorn Hatchling are just, to me, just one of those nuts pair of cards in this set. Like the value you get, it's so absurd. It's a beast. You can draw it with Curator. It is just so grotesquely strong to me.
And especially when you just draw it right away. That Direhorn Hatchling just died last turn.
Right, its mom showed up. It's like, what happened here?
It's like, hey, never talk to me and my son ever again.
Yeah. That's an apt use of that meme, Brian. Well played. This is a great desk.
But Fireplume's Heart, was mulliganed, ends up coming up here. Just going to go ahead. Ooh, it's actually not going to play out the Matriarch, it looks like. They're just going to Fen Creeper. This is interesting. I think that I'm trying to figure out the motivation behind this, not wanting to put the 9 health taunt in the way.
Well, you do know it's going to die to the Eagle Hornbow and the Lion. Maybe you're just thinking if that all gets popped, there's just not enough damage to get through the Direhorn Matriarch.
That's fair.
That's the consideration I would give it. But yeah, obviously it would look like you'd want to just go with the Direhorn Matriarch.
But Crackling Razor Maw could be huge here. Finds +3 health.
That is pretty big.
That can allow the Lion to attack into the Fen Creeper and live. They were really hoping, I think, for Divine Shield. It's actually kind of similar to this in this spot. Or Wind Fury, yeah, +3 health. Very, very big adaptation. I was going to say evolution. It's an adaptation, not evolution. Kind of similar. But.
Yeah, Savannah Highmane at this point is like, who's next? Who else wants some of this? The answer is probably going to be a combination.
Yeah, the Matriarch is still in the hand there for UC Riverside. And I wonder if they're kind of regretting the decision to not throw out the bigger taunt minion in front of Scar here, because now Scar just remains on the board. I don't know, this sequence though, able to Whirlwind, Ravaging, clear off most things, and now the Matriarch comes down.
It's big.
Though this is potential King Mosh here. There's a couple options here for Rutgers. They could just attack the Crawler in and King Mosh away the 6/9, leaving the King Mosh in play, threatening the board. Kill off the Ravaging Ghoul, just push the rest of the face. They could Hyena and just get a huge Hyena here as well.
I definitely like King Mosh. You're putting a giant dinosaur into play. You are getting rid of the Direhorn Matriarch without losing many resources at all. But yeah, I definitely, it's hard not to like the Hyena play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're getting a lot of value off of your board with the Hyena here. But if you King Mosh, you just still have Kill Command in hand, and you have a 9/7 dinosaur in play. This does still leave multiple small minions on the board. If, for instance, Riverside were to play double taunt this turn, they're like, okay, we really need to ensure that we can protect ourselves from the Scavenging Hyena. You could see the 2 cats run into 2 taunts. King Mosh kill both of them, the Hyena grow, and just the damage just get enormous.
Yeah, and that UC Riverside is, acting on very few cards right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, the more I think about it, the more I like it for the reason you just brought up. The fact that you're developing those 1/1s, that can just be used to trade into double taunts, and then King Mosh just comes down and does your work for you.
And oh god, that's what we're gonna see, exactly that. Look at the expressions on Rutgers' faces. They cannot believe what just happened.
McCall, fill out your curve, yell boom shakalaka.
The animation's super sweet too. So. And that is 12 damage to the face of UC Riverside, and 2 giant beasts in play for Rutgers. They need Brawl, and they need the 2-2 to live right now.
Yeah, Execute's not going to do anything if you can't damage a minion. Let Shield Block see what we draw.
That is Shield Slam. They can kill one of the big beasts, but that is not going to quite be enough. They're still alive. You know, they do take out the biggest one, but there's still 11 power in play.
Hungry Grab.
Hungry Grab. All right.
Bring me your Murlocs.
And yeah, this is an interesting spot for Rutgers here. You know, obviously pushing the damage here, and you know they're almost certainly going to use the hero power this turn. It's just a matter of do they duel Macaw and see what else they find.
It makes you weaker to the Brawl. That's the major consideration.
Exactly. If you play additional minions, you have a higher chance of King Mosh losing if a Brawl were to occur. And this, you know, just keeping the King Mosh in play, it's very difficult for your opponent to deal with this right away when they demonstrated they couldn't do it last turn.
Yeah, Rutgers just so close to closing this out and moving to the semifinal. Decide to go ahead and go with the...
Ooh, Chittering Tunneler.
Okay.
That could get them Kill Command. They can just discover Kill Command and win the game right now.
I mean, okay, or you can discover not Kill Command. You can discover some things that are worse than Kill Command.
Those are all kind of garbage, frankly.
All right, well, you know what? You got Snipe. Is there another Stonehill Defender, which I don't think there is. I think we've seen both.
And
okay, Brawl.
Is this Brawl?
That is Ali Armorsmith.
That is going to take 4 damage from a Snipe. Which means 1 attack punches through it, which means King Mosh is 9 damage to the face, and that is going to do it. Yeah, UC Riverside concedes, and Rutgers wins the set and the match, and we'll move on to the semifinals.
Yeah, what a win for Rutgers. And really, you know, the team came in saying they wanted to help Noblord. They wanted to kind of, you know, put him on their back. And I'm sure Noblord's doing a lot of heavy lifting himself, but that's an awesome story that they are now going through to the semifinals and, you know, are 2 wins away from being the 2017 Hearthstone Collegiate Champions.
Yeah, and it's been great to see just how excited they clearly are to be here, to be on this stage and competing at this level. These are a number of guys who just really seem to really love Hearthstone, and it really shows.
Yeah, and you know, we were talking to Orpheus yesterday, such a good-natured guy. Even he, aside from Noblord, was talking about the fact that, you know, if this tournament, if it's a win, you know, there's a potential where he gets more into streaming. He's already doing a little bit of streaming, but he might start streaming, might start doing open. So at this point, with such a commanding win, you have to imagine that's starting to rattle around in the head. Maybe this is more than just a hobby.
Yeah, and you know, this is a great opportunity for any of these players to really break out on the Hearthstone scene, get noticed by potential playtest partners, by potential teams who might look to pick them up if they are going to move more deeply into competitive Hearthstone.
Yeah, for UC Riverside, a very impressive run to make it up to this point. They will be going home with some scholarship money, and you know, they had the chance to go all the way from Riverside to California. It's in California. So
they could drive here. It's exciting.
They got to come out, see the awesome tavern, hang out with the awesome crowd down here in the Santa Ana Esports Arena. But let's go ahead and take a look at the score as we close out this final series of the day. Yeah, we saw early out UC Riverside just jumping out to an early lead. They took the first 2 games. One of them was off camera. But Rutgers just came back in force and just frankly put on a clinic. We see here in set 1, Orpheus was able to take 2 games. That's 1 set for Rutgers. We head on over to set 2. Noblord takes 2. That's another set to Rutgers. And then we see that final win in set 3. Didn't end up mattering, but if UC Riverside had managed to survive that last game, that would have been the potential for UC Riverside to turn around the match.
And I'm really excited to see more of these guys. They're both just really animated on camera, you know, clearly having a great time. And they have some really cool decks. You know, that priest deck, we didn't see the Kazakus, we didn't see the Raza, but it was clearly a singleton priest deck. And it had a lot of fun stuff that I really can't wait to see again tomorrow.
Yeah, I have to assume you're actually just your picks going forward now with that singleton priest.
Yeah. I mean, I was already rooting for them. I really like Noblord, you know, tuning into his stream from time to time, but after that, number 1 for me.
All right, well, let's go ahead and throw it over to Dan, who is standing by with an interview with Rutgers.
Thank you very much, Brian. Joined by Rutgers University. Congratulations. You guys were able to take a hard-fought series. Now, it seems like you guys were really animated, specifically over the last game. I saw Orpheus popping off and saying, "What did I tell you? What did I tell you?" And you're like popping your chest out. Can you explain what exactly he was telling you guys?
Yeah, we were unsure about the Hunter winning against the Warrior. We said, oh, the Rogue can get a win against the Priest, but the Hunter's going to have a tough time because we don't have the deadly shots in the deck. So we're like, all right, we just have to curve out. And then Mike's like, yeah, I'm going to curve out. I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay. So I thought it was some elaborate strategy. Like, in this case, we're going to hold this card because I know they're going to play this and we're going to immediately kill him with King Mosh. Just turned out that he was memeing like the rest of us. So you guys are going to the semifinals. How do you guys feel? Was it just a big win here, or do you feel like the hardest is yet to come?
Yeah, this was a really big win. The first 2 games, we hit like the first 3 games actually, we hit matchups we didn't want to hit. And then the next 3 games, we hit like 3 matchups that we absolutely had to win. So it was like 50-50s that we hit right there. And we got pretty lucky right there.
Yeah, definitely where it counts in terms of the picks. So, you know, you do realize that you're also fighting in West Coast territory, and you also eliminated the last West Coast team, especially a SoCal team. So you're kind of like the villains, but I think at the same time you have Brian Kilber's stamp of approval, so you're kind of like a flawed villain or like a flawed hero. What do you guys think? You're playing for the people, or you're playing for yourselves?
Definitely playing for the people. Yeah, so it's really great to be out here. We're pretty much out of our element. I think Rutgers is actually the furthest flight out here, so it feels really good to be still in this, to come out tomorrow and compete again.
Well, I'm definitely rooting for you. You guys are my champions, so thank you for the free pack. All right, and that's going to wrap it up. Rutgers is our last semifinalist for day number 2 here in the 2017 Hearthstone Collegiate Championship. And with that, we're going to send it right back over to Rob and Brian to close out the day.
I like when it comes down to, you know, what is the message? Are you playing for yourselves or the people? They toss it over to the human resources guy. It's like, let me go ahead and give you the very political answer. Someone who has been in community development, kind of like PR, I appreciate that approach.
Yeah, don't post that meme, Rob.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Not that one.
No
The other
memes, yeah. But let's go ahead and take a look at how today broke down. We had 4 really amazing matches. The bracket shows us that Shawnee State tomorrow will be taking on Poly Montreal, and then UT San Antonio will be going up against Rutgers. From there, we will have our 2 teams that are competing in the finals. And Brian, I'm really happy with all 4 of these teams making it through.
Yeah, we saw great play and some really cool decks from a number of these teams. You know, not really just like the sort of random things you might expect coming from ladder or anything like that. We saw, you know, the questing adventurer rogue that people thought was just gone with the moving of concealed to wild, and then, you know, the singleton priest, all the cool stuff. So I'm really excited to see how these matches play out tomorrow.
Yeah, great format, great decks, and great players competing in the Collegiate Championship. So I want to go ahead and take a quick moment to shout out to our sponsors who help make this possible. That's Twitch, Gunner Optics, and SteelSeries. So, you know, thank you so much for helping to make these Collegiate Esports Championships happen. Brian, any final thoughts before we wrap up this amazing day 1?
It's been, you know, a great time here at the Esports Arena in Santa Ana. If you guys are in the area at all, you should definitely take an opportunity to come out and hang out and say hello. You know, it's a great crowd, you know, great games, and it's just been a lot of fun all day.
Yeah, it's been a bunch of fun hanging out with you, Brian, as well as the other casters, and getting to talk to other people out there in the audience. Great crowd out there. But that is going to do it for us for day 1. Be sure to tune in tomorrow at the same time, same Hearthstone place, as we conclude the 2017 Hearthstone Collegiate Championship.